summer, where my spirit's free, no one's stopping me now. I just can't wait until the summer, when I meet with you again. Yeah, I just can't wait until the summer, when my spirit's free, no one's stopping me now. I just can't wait until the summer, when I meet with you again. Yeah, I just can't wait. I just can't wait. I just can't wait until the summer. I just can't wait until the I just can't wait until the can't wait until another, when I got nothing on my mind. I just can't wait to rediscover, when I meet with you again. Oh, I just can't wait until the summer, where my spirit's free, no one's stopping me now. I just can't wait until the summer, when I meet with you again. Yeah, I just can't wait until the summer, when my spirit's free, no one's stopping me now. I just can't wait until the summer, when I meet with you again. Yeah, I just can't wait. I just can't wait. I just can't wait. I just can't wait until the summer. I just can't wait until the summer. Up into the sky, I can see a beam of light. We can feel lost with the machines. Hold on to me.
Hi everybody. Ooh, really loud. Hi guys. I'm gonna give everybody a call. I think there's Justin. And we'll see where.
Yo.
Yo.
Let me finish making coffee. I'll be right back.
Yeah, go for it. And I think. Oh, is that Mr. Andrew Main?
Hello.
Hold on, we've got you here. Skype 4? Nope. Skype 2. Hey, there he goes.
Good to see you, sir.
Good seeing you too. I hope you had a good time on your thing.
Yeah.
Great. We're live, so we'll just
My
leave it at
boycott of the show, you mean?
that. Yes. I hope your protest was. I hope you got your demands met.
I'm back on the show, so what does that tell you? I
Well, it
caved.
could mean that. Yeah, you caved.
Yeah. Pardon my tan. I don't have a tan. What are you talking about?
Oh, you do look a little. Hey.
I'm gonna. I will. Yeah, we're nothing can be said, and I've asked when I can say something, and it's so secret. they don't even respond to my email.
Oh no! Well, that day will come.
Yeah, I'm gonna send you some photos.
Okay.
You're allowed to react, but you cannot describe what you're seeing.
Okay, I'll do exactly that. We'll have a react to a Fine Brothers production of reacting to confidential photos. Hi, everybody. Brian was here a minute ago. He's getting a new shirt. He's getting another shirt. Oh, and then we could turn on. There they are. Oh, there we go. Open. All right, let's see. Okay, so I'm looking at some photos. Oh wow! Oh my gosh! Is that you?
Yes.
Oh my god, you look so cool! That's incredible! Oh wow. That thing is so close to you too. Oh my god. Okay, we have to talk about it off air. That's so cool.
There were 8 of them.
Wow.
I had to.
That's so cool. Oh, I'm so excited for you.
Yeah, if this was a thing, there was going to be a thing. It'll be a really cool thing.
Yeah, Sunbun. Yeah, that's right. Sunbun. Andrew brought a piece to North Korea.
Yeah. Not supposed to talk about the ICBMs. It's like, yeah, I can't wait to talk about it. What they did, kind of thing, but I can't talk about it yet. But it's one of these things, like, you know, I mean, I don't like the hype. I don't like the hype things.
Right.
But on Twitter, I've been like, yeah, I'm doing a thing, but I'm like, it's worth the hype. And I know, and I've heard people like, oh, what about this? And I'm like,
well, and it's so just like, even those photos are so freaking cool. Oh my gosh. That's right. Codes Firm got it. It's 8 Infinity Stones.
Thanks for the spoilers.
Don't worry, everybody. 5 of them are Soul Stones. So that math doesn't work out.
God, I love that movie. Have we talked about that on the show yet?
No, we were gonna wait for you. So if you want to do a spoiler cast for After Things,
cool.
Weird West Cthulhu says monkeys. Okay, that's a guess. Also, hi, Weird West Cthulhu. It's a new name.
I like that name.
Yeah.
Weird West is an awesome genre. You familiar with that?
Is that sort of like the I know this is maybe not the best example, but like the aliens versus cowboys sort of thing? Like a mixing of sci-fi?
Yeah, Weird West is like taking kind of like fantasy or sci-fi stories and often setting them in the West. And there's been a couple examples, like a cool show that only made 1 season. It could have been really cool. It was out of its wrong time. Was actually Bruce Campbell did Briscoe County.
Yeah?
You ever see this show?
I haven't. What was that on?
It was probably Fox back in the day. Like Briscoe County was a pretty cool show. It was kind of like that. Back to the Future Part 3 is kind of arguably a Weird West sort of, because you have a time traveler back in the West.
Yeah.
You know, it's just an interesting genre. There was a movie that came out 5 years ago, 6 years ago. It's a horror movie that's actually, I thought was a pretty good horror movie, which is a Weird West, was The Burrowers. And it was like out there in the middle of the West, these things kind of pull people, suck people into the ground. You know, Tremors arguably is kind of a Weird West sort of story.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Dusk Till Dawn a little bit.
Yeah,
but it's yeah.
Very cool.
Preacher is sort of contemporary Weird West. But, you know, really old school historical Weird West, it's been rare, but yeah.
Do you think Westworld would be Weird West, or is that too high tech?
You know,
because it's a simulated
think that if
West.
It stayed in the Westworld park, it would be, because so much of it takes place out of there, and I haven't seen the season 2, but because there's other realms to it. So, you know, I would say the original movie maybe, because almost all of it's contained in there. I mean, again, it's genres. You can say I'm doing a genre and whatever I want. You know,
that's true.
But yeah, sometimes it's a good frontier. You know, good premise because frontier. Like, yeah, because it's like I read a book about called Astoria about the trying to found an entire country on the West Coast back in the 1810s, and you read about these explorers going through there just 3 years after Lewis and Clark.
Wow.
And it was just an amazing, crazy, like, we don't know what's there. And you read newspaper accounts from the 1800s of like, there are rumors of like an Aztec level ancient civilization in the Grand Canyon.
Oh my gosh.
A lot of stuff, and then nothing. But like, and you're like, and you think of like, what if you're reading the newspapers in 1830 or 1870, and people are still exploring and opening up these regions? It's kind of really cool.
Yeah. Hey,
Is
Brian.
that a coffee press, Justin?
It is.
Wow.
Stepping up my game.
Yeah.
We have a Keurig here, which I've never
Yeah,
used.
we actually just chucked our Keurig.
Oh, really?
Because
Decided to stick it to the man.
Hashtag delete Keurig.
with their DRM coffee pods.
Well, you can just use a non-Keurig.
It's the
one.
principle of the thing, Andrew. It's the principle.
What
What are they doing? What are they doing? Trying to make money on their system that they made up.
I imagine we're in like some sort of like socialist Marxist meeting, and we need to unionize. No, the auto company across the street, they've unionized. Brian slaps me down. Why fighting the progress of the worker? Are space westerns Weird West? I don't know if they are. I mean, I think that. I mean, again, you can call something whatever you want, and it's not like, I'm sorry, you broke the law. Not the culture police, we're not the genre police, but like Firefly. I mean, it's. I don't think it's. I think Weird West really sort of has to deal with the idea of when the real West, in trying to explore, not know what it was.
Yeah, I would probably define Weird West as a Western movie. I would say Back to the Future 3, a much better example of like, this is a movie that has the tropes and character archetypes of a Western.
Justin, late to the discussion, brings up my example from early on in the discussion.
I was agreeing with you. I was listening to your conversation. I was agreeing with you. That I think that is a better example than Firefly, where it's Western elements in a space kind of story.
Yeah, and I would say that like Preacher might be an edge case, because like Preacher it's the West,
Modern day.
Yeah,
modern day, but it's there is like, hey, there's this part of there's still a desert and weird stuff going on and kind of thing.
Well, and it's the Western story of the man that comes to town and settles the score.
So,
but with the larger kind of elements.
Yeah. All right. I just need one more minute, and I'll be ready to go. You guys, how are you guys feeling?
But I'm feeling good. By the way, so I don't know how much we're gonna talk about it, but I did stay up to catch up with Westworld last night.
Hey,
and,
turns out there's a plot in there somewhere. It turns out
no
things can
spoilers!
happen.
Don't ruin it by telling me there's a plot.
The 1 week I don't watch it.
It's shocking how much that show, if it just gets out of its own way and doesn't like pedantically dance around really stupid things, it's like everything else just kind of fits into place. It is an amazingly. It's amazing how much that show doesn't make me want to cancel HBO this season.
So when I got back from the underneath, upside down,
From the down below.
I was like, I can't wait to catch up on Westworld. But while I was there, I was able to watch Star Trek Discovery. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, let me give this a shot. I watched like the first couple episodes. I'm like, it's not as horrible as I thought, and then but I was like, I got to finish this before I watch Westworld. And it is, you ever have one of those friends? Well, Justin, your friend Brian, who you watch them just sort of make the same mistake over and over again, it's some other Brian, right?
Yeah.
No, but we all have one of those friends, actually like the really colossal sort of like, they got too drunk. They missed work. They lost their job. Justin, basically everybody in Florida. The friend you watch make the same mistake over and over again, and you're kind of dreading like, oh, it's the weekend, and I know I'm going to get a call Monday, because of the stupid thing that I know they're going to do, and I don't want to watch them do this. They're going to do it. That's like Discovery kind of got for me. It's like, oh, don't go into this place. Don't do this. It's not going to be good. And then it's there. It makes it hard. It's hard to pick up the phone. It's hard to watch. But only way I get to Westworld is if like I finish this.
It's short, but there's one over here.
Just give up. Punch out. Like what? Did you like make a pact with the devil that like you had to finish this before you started that?
I did basically. I have one episode left, and it's just we talked about like, it is a show, like we said, it has no moral compass whatsoever. There's nobody in there going, this is a stupid script. There's nobody in the writer room going like, no, really, this is really dumb. We could fix
Hey, is this stupid? Hey, if we did this, would this be really stupid?
Is this a really idiotic thing to do?
And the point, Wooden Monkey God, All Hail Wooden Monkey God makes about like, it's about what I agree, like that part of it too. It's like, I mean, I'm sick of Klingons. I was sick of Klingons before the thing started. Now I watch an entire season about War with the Klingons sucks. And that's boring, and the whole war thing's boring. It's done much better Next Generation and all that. Agreed. That is the least of its problems. That is the least. It's the storytelling. The storytelling itself is so bad. But I mean, like, it's like, hey, how did Star Trek Enterprise start? An inciting incident with the Klingons and war. It's like, it's kind of like Jedis in Star Wars, but worse. So I was excited. I would love to see a Star Trek show where they're exploring the universe. Like, look at how great Black Mirror is.
Yeah.
Star Trek could be like Black Mirror. Star Trek could be like each week or every couple of weeks. The Black Mirror did a fantastic Star Trek show with the
Jesse Plemons.
Whatever.
Jesse Plemons, right?
Yeah.
And Orville's a better Star Trek show.
Yeah.
Things I never thought I would say. So,
yeah.
Anyhow.
Yeah, it's goddamn. I think at a certain point there are franchises where the love for the thing, I think, both in construction and in reception, can often obscure just, hey, let's do good storytelling. And theoretically, like, Star Trek has more of an out to be immune for it because it's had so many different variations. You've had, different cracks at it. Like, why not take the more like Black Mirror kind of approach to it?
I don't think the film. I don't think the people making Discovery like Star Trek. I don't feel like these are people like it. And I would have loved, like, you look at how you have, Black Mirror has brought back this great anthology sort of series, and that's what made original Trek great, was you had these science fiction writers with these great punchy kind of one-off stories and stuff like this. And you're like, if Trek went there, yeah, the lead Black Mirror, the Black Mirror was better. Yeah, it was. I mean, all of this is better, because it's.
Everything inspired by Star Trek is better than Star Trek.
Yeah, and then in Discovery, you're like, oh yeah, we're pushing boundaries. I'm like, I haven't seen them push a single boundary that Next Generation didn't do 30 years ago.
Yeah,
they had non-gender normative relationships. They had a lot of this sort of stuff. It was there. Having Frakes fall in love with an alien. I love they had a species re-identification or species reassignment is a thing in the new Star Trek Discovery. And you're like, I think you're making a point about something. I have no idea what this point you are making is.
It's just gotten so lost in the metaphor.
Yeah. I am ready to go on my side if you guys are ready to do the show.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, species reassignment, just a little bit too hot topic for you, Bryce?
Just want to make sure we get... do you have a heart out today, Justin?
I don't think so. Let me double check.
Because we know you hadn't been on DT Nest the past few weeks.
No heart out.
Okay, very cool. All right. You guys ready? Brian, you feeling it? Justin,
yeah.
you
Oh,
feeling
no. I'm totally feeling it. I felt it, I dealt it, and I smelt it.
Oh, in that order?
Yes. Well, what happened is I felt it, I dealt it, and I wanted to preserve it, so I dipped it in bronze, but I had to smelt the bronze.
I see.
Right.
There you go. All right. Take it away in 3, 2.
Hello and welcome to the Weird Things podcast. I'm Andrew Main, joined by Brian Brushwood,
Hello, beautiful people.
Justin Robert Young.
Oh my God! Oh my God! You're back.
No, Justin.
you.
Justin, we talked about this. When the replicant returns, we just act.
Oh my God, Brian! Andrew is back.
No,
he's dead and a robot. And
You can't.
and
No,
he's
you.
all
It's
over
just
the-
gonna mess him up. His software is still forming.
What am
He's
I?
been on for so long,
Don't
Brian.
tell him that. You gotta sell.
By the way, Bryce is our producer of our show and the fourth member of the team here.
Hi,
Brian, how are you not freaking out?
It's crazy. He's back. Look, Android Main was very expensive. Do not break him already.
If he's so expensive, how can we break him so easily?
He's very fragile and expensive. It's a twofer.
Well, it's good to have you back, Andrew.
It is good to be back, guys. I am happy to be here.
You said this one was expensive?
Okay, not as expensive. Look, we really got to goose the Patreon this week,
Yeah,
guys.
Can we do 1.5 speed, like just to
Your Google Android Cloud account is about to expire. I've never left, guys. I've always been here.
I mean, in our hearts.
yeah.
So yeah, we'll be able to talk. We'll be able to talk about that hopefully in the next few weeks about where I was, what I did, the injustice of the California penal system.
The injustice.
Yeah. 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 If it was only documented, that would have been great. So anyhow, gentlemen, let's jump into a couple topics. A lot of stuff has been happening just in the last couple weeks. There are some cool product releases that I think maybe would make for us to revisit some stuff. I ordered, and I have over here, I got the Oculus Go.
Oh, what's the Go? I'm not familiar with this.
Oh, well, hold on, Brian.
For those guys who don't know, Justin and I, big supporters of the HTC Vive. Justin, did you get that Beat Saber in your life?
No, we haven't tried it yet.
Oh, it's so good.
We definitely need to. I know. I'm shocked that Ashley hasn't. I don't know if she knows about it. Maybe I should set it up for her because she's
Even
more
I know
of the
about
rhythm
that one.
game than I am.
So, Oculus Go, it is the first wave. We've talked about this before, about a year or so ago, about how we're starting to get a new wave. There would be a new wave of microprocessors coming out specifically geared towards VR, and in particular, lowering the cost of it and allowing you to do completely standalone. So the Go is sort of the first wave of the real standalone VR units. It starts at $199. This is a completely self-contained. It's not a thing you put your phone into. It's already got a display and a computer system inside of there, right? The resolution on it, all that is, I would say, it's actually better than the first Oculus developer division I had. Okay, now it's got a pretty good display. You know, you charge it up. It's got this controller here. Now, what this does not have is not 6 degrees of freedom, meaning, if you haven't tried VR, and that's the thing that's the hard thing to sort of get across to people, is a lot of people that you put the cell phone VR thing, you put your phone in there and you look around, which is like a ViewMaster that lets you turn your head. That's cool. But once you have what's called 6 degrees of freedom, which means that you don't just turn like here.
That's XYZ axis plus pitch, yaw, and roll, right? Pitch forward, backwards.
Yeah, and what that means is like there's a Stranger Things game or experience that you can play with this, right? And in it, you're sitting on a couch, right? And you're looking around and crazy things happen. And next to you is a chair. Now with this, you look over and you see the chair. You can move your head all around. That chair ain't going out of the way. With 6 degrees of freedom, which is, I'll explain in a second when that's coming out, you can move your head over and now you can see around the chair. You can see around. Or with, if it has a larger sense, you're able to walk around. This doesn't have that. This is just spin your head around, look at stuff. It's cool. It's like having a super big monitor to play with stuff. And also, it's only $199.
Do you feel taken out of the experience when you positionally move your head and it doesn't track, or do you not really? Is there enough of an experience that you still lose yourself in the place?
I think there's a couple. There were a couple experiences that I thought were great, like Like the Stranger Things experience, it's more. I describe you're just watching a really immersive movie, you know,
Yeah.
versus being there. You know, when you guys first did the Vive, I bet you have visceral memories of the first things you played there, and those felt like real places to you.
Oh, absolutely. And
Yeah.
in fact, I as we've talked about on some of the other podcasts, I'm trying to find a property to move our operations and have like a real grown up business. And so the real estate agent had like 5 different properties. And he was like, well, can we meet and we can, look at these on a laptop? I was like, well, why don't you come over to my place? And using Google Earth, I quote unquote went to all of them. And it was astonishing how quickly we didn't have to travel. We didn't have to go there using the actual data from Google Earth. I was able to get a simulacrum of what it would look like at sunset, sunrise, all that stuff. It'd be like, yes, definitely this on the list, definitely this one off the list. And, now that I'm, you make yourself a 50-foot tall giant and you're like, well, it seems like this, concrete factory is right in your backyard. That doesn't look
If
good.
I become Ant-Man, this could be a problem.
Exactly, right? But that sense of place is what I'm getting at, is so authentic in a good Vive experience. How close does that bring you to that kind of experience?
So no, it doesn't. It's like the first, without it doesn't bring you quite there. It's fun. It's a cool thing to look at media and to do sort of stuff. Big problem is just the content. Like, I think there probably could be some great games and stuff. They're showing Bryce is showing the browser, actually using a web browser, and it's actually kind of fun. And the controller's pretty good. For a $199 device, it's pretty amazing. I think it's pretty fantastic what it does. That being said, I ordered another device, which I don't know when I'm going to get. This was the Oculus platform and Oculus Go, which is basically just streamlining the phone sort of stuff. The next thing coming out is from Google has their project Daydream, which is their version of sort of the mobile AI or mobile VR system stuff. I just ordered the Lenovo Mirage Solo. Wonderful name, guys. But Lenovo Mirage Solo, which is a $400 one that has 6 degrees of freedom and completely standalone.
Huh.
Which that's like Vive, a really good Oculus level. I mean, again, those things probably have a higher resolution than these things do. But now we're at the $400, the sub $500 standalone VR thing. And so the Mirage Solo has the 6 degree of freedom sort of thing. The problem there is, and it has room sensing. So it is just 2 cameras. You don't need to put anything on the walls, nothing around you. It's using Google's system for using the 2 cameras on the front to track what's around you. By all accounts, they say the hardware's great. The problem with all these systems, there's just no software. There's just nothing to do with them.
Outside of like a couple of tech demos, and that's it.
Well,
Yeah,
look,
it's a couple games,
everything is either super short, fairly limited, or the open-ended stuff people want to do. Like VR chat kind of had a moment that people wanted to be a part of it, but like at a certain point, as soon as that wave passes and all the Uganda knuckles shows up, then you're out. It's done. And that's the problem with all the VR stuff, is that everybody either wants to do stuff that looks blow your mind out awesome, right? Or you come up with these open-ended kind of games where you can play against other people, but no one's really done the let me spend 4 hours on a journey, even if it doesn't look as good. Like if it's not, you can see past every hill and vista, that it's maybe a sparer game, but at least you can connect to the to the process.
So in the chat, Trey Warren was pointing out that the Oculus Go would be a perfect air flight device. Like if you're sitting in your cross country flight, you can lose yourself. Do the equivalent of tell your neighbor to bug off and don't bother you because you're not here.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you
bought
what, that's kind of a pretty good way to do it without telling them, is to put on a gigantic, cinder block on your face.
and then throw on some giant headphones, and it's so like nothing says "leave me alone" louder than that, right?
Yeah,
I
bought it.
Just get it monogrammed GFY.
Yeah, I bought it because I was thinking, I may have been on a lot of airplanes recently, whatever, but I may have had great video screens in the accommodations I was in, but that's neither here nor there. But anyhow, the point is, I bought it with the point thinking about that might be kind of cool because like they have things like Netflix built in and stuff, but it's streaming, so it's not like download. But you could use Plex and other systems there. There are ways to put content on there and do that. And the one of the cool, I'll tell you what's cool about the Go. One is you can do that, and actually watching videos on there is kind of cool. And you know, it's funny, like the problem is like the default video players for this, they put you in like a movie theater or like your living room, and you see a screen and there's a rug and there's this, and it's like the 1995 website where there's a calendar and a clock and a pen, you know, to write me a letter, where you're like, this is stupid, you know? It's like it's just like, we'll put this there and we'll make it look like a movie theater. And you're like, you're in this empty, abandoned movie theater.
It's just like that Mitchell and Webb sketch of like the first television broadcasts where they're just like awkwardly sitting in front of the camera, and it's like just like a radio thing where they're like describing everything that they're doing.
Oh.
Yeah. So this is like, this is that I would say that's the problem. It's a software problem. From a hardware point of view, I mean, this is, you know, I got the $250 one, but it has it's comfortable enough for something that's big on your face. I had it too tight, so every time I took it off, it looked like I had like, you know, a reverse sunburn around my face.
Looks like you just got back off the slopes.
What's that?
Looks like you just got back off the slopes.
Well, I was a ninja sunbathing, you know, just this area here, you know, just my eyes were red.
That's funny.
It has built-in speakers, right? So when you put this thing on, the sound is really good. And you know, so you can use, if you're by yourself, it's fine. You don't need to put in, you know, plug in earphones. But the built-in speakers on this, I was very impressed with. So the quality of this, the quality of the build, you know, I was very, very, very impressed with the hardware part of this. And I was thinking, like, man, if Nintendo came out with this and it was $299 and they had, you know, a bunch of Nintendo kind of experiences and stuff, we would be losing it over it. But it's that software ecosystem. It's just not.
Yeah. And you know, there's been some pushes. I think the NBA announced that they'd be doing like 1 or 2 games a week where you would have, it'd be 4, stuff like that. But even then, it's like, I can't see that replacing like, oh, I just want to watch a game. Like, I'd have to have like a reason to do it. If it was like, you know, somebody that I really wanted to hang out with, and it's like, hey, here's a cool interactive experience where you get to experience this with somebody live and interact with them, then that might be one thing. But as it is now, it's just, man, it is so frustrating because the specs are there, but the follow through just isn't.
Yeah, I didn't realize the Go and the Rift had separate app libraries.
Yeah, because remember the Go is based upon sort of like what was sort of the cell phone kind of thing, and then the Rift and like the Vive, they're a bit more processor intensive.
So it functions without any kind of internet connection?
I mean, you set it up on the internet, but then
right. but then it's got stuff downloaded and standalone, and
you can download it. You have
do it while you're driving.
Yeah, you can download stuff to it and do that. And then the Mirage, which I'll be getting hopefully in a week or so, be able to talk about that. That actually lets you plug in SD cards and store stuff onto it and all that. And
that's
good. I'm, you know, for $400 device, you know, and the quality on this, it's like it's screen door effect, but this is way better than, you know, I had the Oculus, the first Oculus Developer Edition, and this is way better than that, you know.
So, enthusiastic thumbs up, provisional thumbs up, sideways
I would say that if you're curious about VR and you want to play around, but you understand that the inherent limitation that it does not have that full 6 degrees of freedom, and you want to play with it, whatever, I would say, yeah, play with it. You know, get it, play with it. If you want, I'm going to wait for the Lenovo Mirage to play with that, but expect the fact that you're going to get it. It might be cool. There might be a couple neat things, and then there's nothing for you to do with it until people start developing for it.
Yeah.
So, I've bought you know a lot. Like I've bought a lot of like VR stuff and cameras and stuff, and played with this sort of stuff. Like I said, I mean, I bought first Oculus, the first developer, the DK2, played with it. Played with development environments with it, felt very disappointed in what they were doing on sort of the software and the development side of it, and thought that their focus was not where I wanted it to be, and sort of just walked away from it. I think this is exciting. I'll say this is exciting because a year and a half from now, you're going to buy a $200 headset that'll have room sensing, room tracking. That price will hit. If you can put this thing out for $200, you're not that far away from being able to put a camera system in there and giving you really good room sensing and tracking. And then I think games are going to get really, really, really cool. You guys have done the Star Wars Void experience.
I have not. Justin has.
I did it a week ago, 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, in Vegas. Yeah, no, I did the Secrets of the Empire Void experience. I was impressed. They had just set it up. It's the new one in the Venetian.
So this is like a standalone kiosk, like an arcade, basically. You'd find these like at the mall or something.
So no, it actually is like a room. There's like several kind of areas that you walk both to get your
lobby,
briefing.
You go into a briefing room. You go into another. The one in like Orlando, you go into another room. You watch a video screen. They explain to you what's going to go on.
Yeah.
Then you go into when you play the game, Brian. Like they actually have like rooms you walk through and doorways and stuff and things you stand in, places you sit.
Do you have to wear a backpack with the computer in it?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
But it works. I mean, you're supposed to be a stormtrooper, so you feel kind of body armor whenever you're hit. You feel
A thump.
pressure. Like it all works together. Technically, my hands didn't always track.
Yep.
So that was slightly disappointing. It was better when I was you get a gun. It tracked a lot better when you had a gun in your hand. But other than that, like there were like little things that I was slightly disappointed on. But there's a moment where, spoiler alert, it's a Star Wars thing. So guess what happens? Star Wars characters show up, and there was a Star Wars character that showed up, and my butt definitely puckered. Like I was scared that I was gonna die at the hands of a famous Star Wars character. Won't tell you who it is, but it's a Star Wars, very mean Star Wars character.
Everyone knows it's Yoda.
So let me just give you an exasperated sigh that sounds like this.
Yep, Max Rebo.
I've done the Ghostbusters one, and I've done the Star Wars one for Void, and yeah, both were like, I'm like, fun. The equipment is huge and unwieldy, and it's a Vive. It's portable Vive. It's like that's what it is. And also I would say that I think the display on this thing is actually better than the one that they had in the Void. I was really kind of the display I was a little bit disappointed in. I looked at this. I'm like, it's like a 20-minute experience. It's 20 minutes and you're done. And it's like, I want that experience. Now what's cool is like this has integrated into a lot of social stuff, so you can connect, like go to do things with rooms and like hey guys, let's go to this Oculus room and go watch this sort of thing and be there together. It's got a microphone, it's got this stuff. There is so much potential now for these things. Like I'm excited about once this is in the hands of developers and people start playing with this, and also with the the Mirage Solo, the Daydream platform with the 6 Degrees of Freedom, you could start making full-on Vive-like stuff with this. You could start doing a lot more cooler kinds of things, and that's just freaky and weird. We're watching floating heads. It is this, yeah. It's this desire to. Like you create an avatar and your avatar is wearing VR goggles.
I mean, that's an option. Or are all of them? They're all wearing VR?
The glasses are like VR goggles.
Yeah, there's masks and stuff.
My guess
and everyone's
is,
like a dickie, like so you kind of see a little bit of their chest too.
My guess is that trying to render eyes triggers the uncanny valley at this point. And so,
yeah, then go for simpler avatars, in my opinion.
Yeah, go for coal black eyes, so everybody looks like they've become possessed.
Rec Room sort of does it with
cartoon eyes, just
yeah,
dots,
emoticon almost.
Yeah. And I mean, we've seen like emojis and our Wii characters and we whatever those were called. Like, I don't know. I mean, I'm excited because it's like this is the starting point. Like, and now we're at that. Hey, next year it's like the first phones, the first technical phones, and then we know Apple's spending tons of money on this, and then as we start getting to 4K and 8K displays, but it's just the hardware's fast getting there. It's the hardware's now where we kind of thought it was 3 years ago.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, and the price point is the price point is doable, at least to jump in. The only problem is, again, and this is something that we've said even as big Vive fans, is like, man, I would love if 2-3 times a year I could get really excited about a new game, and unfortunately that has just kind of not panned out.
Yeah, but
so much I can go back and do the old stuff. But yeah, listen, I think that the future is there. There is a future there at the very least.
Yeah, I'm thrilled that they hit the $200 price point on a VR headset that's as good as anything that came out 3 years ago. And that we're now in the acceleration curve. And
are we 3 years into? I guess we are. Yeah, we're 3 years into VR 2.0.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, between Oculus and Vive, crazy.
Yeah. Hey, you know what we're more than 3 years into?
Weird Things, and us being loud, live, and independent. Thanks to all of our fabulous bosses over at patreon.com/weirdthings. Join the revolution. The revolution against what? Normalcy. Normalcy? Boring. You lived it your whole life. Get done with it. Join the weird revolution. Head on over, become a boss at patreon.com/weirdthings. It's not a complicated system. The system is you listen to our shows, you like them, you give us money, so we keep doing them. I think that's a fair transaction, sirs and madams. You're welcome.
Yeah, man. Patreon.com/weirdthings. Head on over there right now and make sure that we keep doing this show. Because if you don't pay us, we'll stop.
That's how it works. Our time is worth money, and we carve out hours and hours to do this for you. And if we stop being paid,
I don't know that, like, if we stop that the show has to stop, because man, I want to do like 2 AI machine learning stories, if I may.
Yeah, and replace 2 of the hosts. Are you saying you want to replace the 2 of the hosts with AI machine learning bots?
I also, if you guys wouldn't mind, I do have another kind of larger question that I would like to pose to you guys. So, Andrew, would you want me to do that after or before the machine learning? What do you think
now
would be?
Now that you brought it up, Justin, you just got to go with it. You just got to rip that.
I mean, if you'd like, I could simulate what it'll be like to have machine learning Brian and Justin on for you, Andrew. Would that be good? I worked out. My Jeep is nice. I like games.
Personal best. Personal best.
Many kids. Many kids.
Josie Penny Bonnie.
Yeah.
Penny Josie Bonnie.
My back hurts. My back's feeling better.
Wrestling, yay.
I like wrestling. Opinion that's opposite yours.
Space elevators.
All right, here. Let me just ask, and we can spend as little or as much time on this as we want. But there's something that I've noticed in popular culture, that as Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos specifically, I think in general there's kind of a popular backlash toward kind of Silicon Valley companies. But I saw a story today that made its way through my Twitter feed that was like a BuzzFeed think piece about how Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos are so focused on space, but they dare not touch like global inequality, like wealth inequality, and compared Bill Gates's foundation to how they are spending their money, and some other Silicon Valley famous philanthropists to how they've spent their money compared to specifically Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. And I don't think that we necessarily need to debate that think piece specifically, but there is just this larger sort of like I backlash against those two. I see it in mainstream people that aren't really like science focused. There's just this brewing a backlash to those two specifically, and I'm just curious from both of you, where do you guys think that comes from? Because I have a few theories, but I figure we talk enough about the two of them like on this show that I think it would be an interesting topic of conversation.
And Andrew?
I think it comes from every time I read a piece like this, if I were to have Frankenstein sum up that person's point of view, it's business bad, government good, charity good. And it comes from, what's that?
Oh, I was going to offer a counterpoint. I think all of it comes from a good place. What they're really saying, if you distill it down, is I am deeply bothered that some people are doing so much better than other people. And it is hard for me as the author of this BuzzFeed think piece to imagine someone spending so much money to go to space when if I had that money, I would spend it a different way.
Yeah, Brian, I agree that there is this, they have this idea of how to make the world better, but they don't know how you make the world better. That's my point, is that Elon Musk starts Tesla, an electric car company, because Elon Musk says, controversially, on one hand, he says, we might have the right amount of CO2 right now because it helps things. A little bit of CO2 is good. Heads exploded when he said that, but he's like, but we don't want to continue that. We don't want to continue this experiment, put too much CO2 and destroy, make the way we like things, and he's very much like, yeah, we don't want to keep using, we don't want to keep using CO2 producing fuels thing forever. That's why he wants to electrify electric cars, Tesla energy, all this sort of stuff. Right. And I largely agree with that. I think it's great. Like I'm not an alarmist, but I'm also like, yeah, I don't want us to be using like diesel generators and coal 80 years from now. I think that would be kind of a failure of imagination if we do that. So he has created this company that has now created more electric cars, put more electric cars on the streets of America and around the world than anybody else, right? Number one selling like mid-sized sedan now is like the Model 3. Okay, this is a guy who's done enormous amounts to sort of move us away from fossil fuel cars to electric cars. And again, we can have a debate over the practicality of that, but if you say, hey, decarbonization is good, and well, where's the power coming from? Nuclear, power plants. If it's nuclear, it's great. Point is, getting cars to be electric means it's faster towards getting to decarbonization, and that's great. But because it's a business, this writer doesn't see it as that. This writer says, "Wow, it's a business. He's doing it for money." Great. It makes it even better idea because then it means it's sustainable. It pays for itself. It does that. Jeff Bezos sees that once we're able to go into space and do all sorts of amazing research, it will apply back to Earth. He sees these guys have a much bigger vision of what these technologies mean for humanity. And when people talk about wealth inequality, it's they fall into that trap of thinking, well, these people are poor because this person's rich. It's like, maybe in some countries, in some situations, but in a market system or market these people are poor because we're not doing enough to help them unleash their potential, not because they need to be treated like cattle. It's because you need to give them better access to education and tools because, I have friends in India. A friend in India gets paid next to nothing. You bring that same person here and put them into our system, suddenly they're worth 10 times more. It's the same person. It's the same knowledge. But we say, no, this person has value. This person doesn't, and you can do things to charitably to help education. Absolutely, I'm all for these sorts of things. But I don't look at other, there are people who think that every new mouth is just another mouth to feed, or you say, no, this person has potential. In the right environment, we can unleash that.
So it's just to kind of and tell me if I'm mischaracterizing, but to put kind of a bow that there are just fundamental ways of looking at the world that are driving these kinds of assumptions and backlash.
Yeah, somebody says, I look at Bezos and he has a ton of money. I'm like, great. I hope he starts more companies and hires other people. Other people goes, he has a ton of money. He should give it away. Well, you give it away once and it doesn't exist. But if he can create more companies and more industries, then we do that. And there are inequalities. There's, one of the biggest problems we have is poverty, the way we treat people who are poor, the way we have things that make it harder for them to get access to education. If you're a single mom and you're like, well, go to college, and it's like, well, who's going to raise my kid? And there are things that I think we can do to improve the quality of that. But just saying, it's like, I hate the whole idea when we're like, we should do minimum basic income and stuff. I'm like, maybe, but that's like the worst. That's the last idea I want to try.
So there's we've talked about it before, but in that David Wong article, 6 Harsh Truths That'll Make You a Better Person, at the end he talks a bit about why people offer nasty comments and act like trolls. And he says, whatever it is they say, it all boils down to this, quote, stop creating. You're doing things, you're making a thing different than I would have made a thing, and the attention you're getting is making me uncomfortable. And once I read those words, it truly did. It was like a magic lens that changed every nasty comment that we got. You know, like we got a whole bunch of, you know, we made a PC on the Modern Rogue channel. And so anybody who has ever built a PC, guess what? Turns out there's opinions among the tech literate, right? And so everybody was doing like, you know, LOL, cringe, you know, these guys are dumb. I would have done it differently. And none of them bothered me because I saw the truth of what they were saying. And what they were saying was, stop creating the attention you're getting. You did it different than I would have done it, and it's making me uncomfortable. And when I hear about these articles, I would have gotten bent out of shape. I'd be like, hey man, I plan to be rich someday, and I don't want anyone telling me how to spend my money. Now, when I, even just hearing it, and I haven't read the think piece, Justin, but when you described it, all I heard was, hello, I am an author, and if I had Elon Musk's money, I would spend it differently than Elon Musk did. And that's fine. That's a fine sentiment. That's great that you would do that. Good on you.
Well, I think inherent is this idea, and it is certainly an extrapolation of where there is modern criticism to kind of like the new titans of industry in Silicon Valley, that we are creating these companies that have tremendous explosive wealth and these dynamic kind of personalities that are purposely reacting different than some of the old people who have created gigantic companies and are trying to do different things. And for every time that they're like, you know, even like exactly like what we've all talked about, that like Elon Musk is like, hey, here are my pursuits because I believe it's going to make the world better. We should have electric cars, better capacity batteries, and we should be able to get off Earth because fundamentally, me as a very smart guy sees these as worthwhile pursuits that are going to benefit humanity. And the argument against it, if you're going to look at it in the most cynical way, is like, sure, typical Silicon Valley thinking. These guys want to think 9 steps ahead when the problem right in front of them is somebody's hungry. Why don't you figure out how to feed that person?
Well, you know, the bringing up Bill Gates was interesting because over a decade ago, he was criticized because he hadn't started charitable contributions, right? He was criticized because he's worth billions of dollars. He wasn't the richest, but as his wealth was accumulating, he got criticized because why isn't he doing anything with it? Bill Gates at the time was studying up on epidemics, was studying up on virology. He was looking, he says, I've got a massive amount of wealth. What do I need to do with it? And there's this dumb idea that the thing you need to do is just write checks to charities. I got news for you. Been inside the nonprofit world and different aspects of it. It is sometimes the worst way to solve a problem because charities exist to support themselves. But for our podcast listeners, Justin and Brian are nodding their heads vigorously. Okay.
Hey, look. They're called nonprofits because a lot of the people that work at them wouldn't know how to fucking balance a budget.
There's things like charitable navigators. Start looking at the salary levels of a lot of the people who run these nonprofits, okay? And they're making more than executives of big Fortune 500 companies. You find out, you look at some charities are good, but you look at some of your favorite charities and what you're contributing to and what it goes towards, you will want to throw up because you realize for every dollar you spend, for how much are you really doing? Charities are a business that exists to convince you that by giving them money, and there are some fantastic charities.
The way economicists, or as I call them, economists, as economists would put it, is they have perverse incentives. They have the misalignment of incentives. You would think that their goal is to solve the charity, but that's the one thing that would instantly put their charity out of business. And so instead, there are incentives to make sure that you do highly visual things. You make the customer feel very good because the customer is really purchasing the feeling of having done social good, not necessarily having solved the problem.
I I've worked with foundations that were trying to go for, like, try to do things, raising money to solve orphan diseases and stuff, right? And they'd raise a bunch of money because, you know, there's a condition that affects only a few thousand children. They'd raise a bunch of money and they go to some hospital, they go to like a pretty prominent researcher, some hospitals working this. They buy them a bunch of lab equipment and it became just another project for them. You know, it became just another project for them. Versus if you wanted to be aggressive and use that money for it, you'd go to some grad student or some, you know, just somebody who just got their postdoc somewhere who's not the same level, not this. You spend the time and you headhunt and you found somebody else like this and say, hey, what would you do with $500,000 versus funding this lab that's overfunded or funding? It is horrific what I have seen in many cases where money is going to, and you have the people who do the donor management, and we've all have experience, I think, with that, with friends and family and this sort of stuff, and you see what goes on there. And the answer, like, they should give it away. Bill Gates spent years figuring out what to do it. Ultimately, he created the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which is to do that, which has problems. But it's probably one of the best examples out of a lot of them so far. But I think they're getting some institutional cruft. When Warren Buffett decided that he wanted to give away his fortune, what did Warren Buffett say? I'm going to go to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and give them my money because everybody else is spending it stupid. And if I want Elon Musk just to write checks for all these things. Great for your friends who work for nonprofits. Is that going to solve the problem? Building another gigafactory is probably going to solve these problems.
Can I offer a counterpoint to this discussion?
No, Brian. I'm not going to have
This is not the Counterpoint Things show. No, go ahead.
Because we've talked about this in various places. Not us, but I have talked about this with other people, especially in the chat room, in other places online. And I think part of it is, yes, it's very weird to say, hey, you have a lot of money, give it to X, Y, or Z. But I think a lot of where the frustration comes out of is, especially in the case of Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, is that their own houses are not exactly in order. You know, the stories of Amazon workers who are not allowed to take restroom breaks and are not hydrating themselves because they will get dinged for work and their time if they go to a restroom a quarter mile away. The safety issues in Tesla factories, any number of things that in their own houses that they should be addressing. And there was very recently the article, I think part of the article that probably spawned this BuzzFeed one was an interview with Jeff Bezos talking about, well, you know, I'm funding a space travel program because that is something, the most money I have so much money coming in. That's how I can burn $1 billion a year. And it's like, well, what about treating the people that you're responsible for maybe a little better? Like the charity stuff is I'm sure there are people who are saying that, but Bryce, I also think that there's a more middle space here.
100% on those things. And like, yeah, that is Amazon I love Amazon. I have a great relationship with Amazon. I'm also an Amazon published author. Those other things need to be talked about. We need to know. But I mean, part of what makes Amazon work is how they're able to lower their profits, whatever. They need to talk about it. And the same with the Tesla factories. I'm a Tesla shareholder, and I'm concerned about some of these stories. But also, I'm going to defend Tesla for a point. There's a massive effort to unionize Tesla. And a lot of these stories you hear about that, you're like, where does this come from? And then they turn out to be a little bit spurious because you find out that they're coming from factories that people so far have rejected unionization. But I do think big companies have these issues. I do think, like, yeah, Amazon cuts its costs. It's not known for its perks. It's not for this. I would not want to work in a fulfillment center. You know, they talk about famously like how they like, oh, we have a jobs retraining program. If people want to learn and go get another job, it's because they don't want you working in a fulfillment center past 5 or 6 years because then you become more expensive and less efficient. And it's a reality of economics. And so as far as how could you take, but also remember, there's the corporate profit and then there's the personal profit. So there's the money that's in the company versus what somebody takes out of that. Mm-hmm. I think all of these are absolutely viable, and I think that build a healthy company that treats its employees well, build a healthy company that makes a healthy profit and treats its employees and treats its customers well. You start there. You can change the world. Like Amazon's changed my life for the better. Walmart's done a lot more for me. When a struggling writer living in Florida, whatever, to be able to go to Walmart and buy food gave you a little more money, every month.
I think about it a little bit. There's an example. I'm going to adapt an example that's in one of the Robert Kiyosaki books where he's talking about building systems versus taking direct action. He's talking about making money. But let's think about it in terms of doing good. So let's say there's a lake and there's a village, and everybody in the village is right this moment definitely dehydrating to death. Like they need water very, very badly. They're dying in front of you. And there are two paths to take. There's the path where you run down and grab a bucket and run up and deliver it to them. And that will feel right. And it will definitely do good. And you will get to see the good. And then there's the path of looking at that, nodding, turning your back on it, walking back, finding investors, building a system, hiring engineers, and meanwhile, all these people just dying of thirst. And you're ignoring them while you try to build a system. And then a year later, there's a pipeline and everybody has water. And I think that the BuzzFeed article writer is somebody who says, how can you not grab a bucket and help? And I think the Elon Musks say, because I'm trying to save everyone. And it's up to each of us to decide, who's right and who's wrong in that situation. But I think that it's just a matter of solving different problems differently with different people.
And there's another thing too that I taught you guys know this. I taught a program in high schools. This is actually how I met Justin. That was underwritten by Johnny Carson. Okay, Johnny Carson, celebrity entertainer. He did so much stuff. There was no press releases for it. He funded parks, funded this. I know an internet billionaire who's funded poison control centers. His name's not on a single one of them. And people don't know that he does this because the last thing he really wants to do is get attention for this. I know Elon Musk has actually done a lot more, and I can't get into much, but I know Elon Musk has done a lot more for really important critical causes in education, things in South Africa and other places like this. He's actually done a lot. Is he taking his titanic fortune to this? No, because his goal is to take that. If Bill Gates took his $20 billion fortune back in 1995 or 1996 and said, I'm giving it all away, we would not have had the global impact that we have now with what Bill Gates is able to do.
And by the way, there's a natural experiment of that, because that is what Ted Turner did. He donated $1 billion to the United Nations, and it was done with love in his heart and because he wanted to help the world. And I think that $1 billion, seeing what the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation does with accountability and all that, might have been better spent somewhere else.
Yeah, and again, it is done without that. And I think that I actually one of the guys people I know, billionaire who funded poison control centers and did some really cool stuff that you've seen that some people know about, but they don't know who did it. This is a guy that did that. But anyhow, I asked him what's his advice. This is when I was way younger. I said, hey, what advice would you give me if I wanted to try to change things and do things better? He's like, make money. He says, become successful. He says, make money when you're young. Don't spend it. If you're spending all your time working in charitable organizations or doing this sort of stuff, you're not going to be effective. If you can accumulate a lot of money and expertise and all that, later on in life, you go do this, you'll be far more effective. And I think that Jeff Bezos is now the richest man in the world. He does not plan to turn all of that over to his kids. When Jeff Bezos is able to, and that's part of it too, is like, you should give this away. They're building companies. They don't have time right now to focus on how to smartly, intelligently give away their money. Bill Gates retired. Then he and his wife got together and said, how do we handle this now? Because if we do it wrong, they've watched so many fortunes get wasted and squandered, mind you, because a rich person did not know what to do and just said, I'm going to write a check for $1 billion here, here, and here. And great, they got another college got another wing or another building, another college that it's already extremely well funded and endowed that does not need your money got to do this. Instead of strategic, Bill Gates said strategically, I want to combat AIDS in Africa. And he saved millions of lives. Because he took the time, figured out what he wanted to do. He has saved millions of lives and now fighting malaria. I mean,
well, and plus also,
and by the way, I met somebody that's now working with Zuckerberg's and his wife's charity. And this is like their goal is over the next 20 years, they want to have that track record. They want to have that Bill and Melinda Gates track record of spending money wisely for maximum effect. And if there's one central kind of issue that I would have on that particular think piece and in general is for all the like tut-tutting of, yeah, but why not this? There's very rarely an effective drawing a circle around the problem. If it's like, hey, why are people hungry? Like, why is there global poverty? Why is there such high homelessness, even in places where there's tremendous wealth and relatively abundant opportunity? It's very rarely that of like, you should be focusing on this thing because with this amount of money or this amount of technology or this amount of attention, something could be done. It's just people are hungry. Solve it. Although I guess that's the issue for them is like, hey, look, you want to solve space travel, that's not uncomplicated. Why can't you solve this problem? Why can't you solve global hunger? Why can't you solve wealth inequality?
And it kind of comes down to like, and we're obviously kind of very similar, like-minded. When we look at an impoverished city, I would say the three of us aren't looking there going, man, if only Bill Gates would open up his checkbook and pay to buy every house there. We look at an impoverished city and we're like, man, they've got really bad leaders. They've probably got a bad justice system. They've got a lot of problems there. Their education system probably really sucks as far as access to it. It's not a lack of money, it's a lack of bad leadership. But if people think, no, it's leadership's fine, and you put enough bureaucrats and leaders there, it's going to be fixed. It's like, no, that's actually, we found that's the opposite. More inefficiency wreaks even greater inefficiencies and stuff. But we look at it that way. If you look at it from the point of view like, oh, well, they're poor because this guy over here has money, it's like, well, that's a fundamental I have a difference of opinion of where wealth comes from. Wealth is generated. You can redistribute it until there's nothing there, or you figure out how to create it. You take Detroit, I would rather we improve the access to education and stuff for people in Detroit and help them live up to their human potential like I've been able to do, then instead like, so sorry, we're just going to have to give you money because there's nothing, you have no value. I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. See, we're like, that's how we see it.
Wait, was that an answer to your question, Justin?
Yeah, no, I think this is kind of a larger thing because obviously we are very future focused on this show. We are very bleeding edge. This is the new stuff that is happening, and we tend to, I think, and I think it's serving the show, but we tend to, minimize general blowback toward people like Elon Musk, so we can focus the time on, hey, here are the satellites that are going up. Here is the timeline for when we are going to get this. Like rapidly over the course of this show, we have watched the impossible become possible. There's a reason why we keep going back to the space elevator thing, because that was an actual argument that we had that now has proven to be kind of a comically obsolete idea as the prices on this have come down just in the length of this show. If you're just following this week by week, this is what's happened. And so we feel that, all right, we are, if the charge is, you guys are focusing 9 steps ahead, then I think we're guilty of that because that's where we spend a lot of time on this show. But I do think that I've noticed more as the stature of both those guys specifically have gone up. And maybe like what Bryce said is there is this idea that the mythos of both Bezos and Musk has gotten so big that the natural inclination is to see, all right, is the cannon fodder the people who work in the factories? Like, are they treating these people well when they are putting untold wealth into these, solving a problem that many might never see in their lifetime, the fruits of. So I know that we don't focus on that a lot, but it is something that I've noticed more and more, and beyond just beyond the kind of issues and the conversations that we're having, there just seems to be this growing like, these guys roll their eyes. If not on the other end, that these are the true villains of our era, that they are that they are mortgaging the present for the future, even at its most charitable.
Yeah, and I would say I would posit or suggest that maybe if I'm reading the room correctly, some version of the official Weird Things counter argument would be, it's easy to say, oh, spaceman doing space things. What's the point of that? The real point, of course, is 600 years from now, they'll look back and say, this is the man who solved the overpopulation problem. He saved all of humanity and got us off this rock. That might not be much of an overstatement to make it. So you could make a very strong, compelling moral case that that the much bigger, pressing, important problem of us being stuck on one dumb petri dish that could get hit by a rock and get wiped out at any moment, we're getting off this rock.
Well, and the other part optically is that, Bezos has gone from Point Dexter to a wig away from Hank Scorpio from the Simpsons, and Elon Musk is playing the role of eccentric crazy man billionaire as he talks about making cyborg dragons and revolutionizing the candy industry. So like that they lend themselves, I think, whether they are intentionally doing it or not, to whenever there's, I'm going to revolutionize the candy industry, the first thing that somebody wants to reply is, yeah, but what about this problem in your factory? Or like, what about, for Bezos, like exactly what Bryce said, the like, oh, space is where I can spend my money. And then the first thing somebody wants to throw back, which I don't think is unvalid, is, well, somebody pooped on the floor because you worked them 12 hours in a fulfillment center. Fix that if you are looking for something to dump a ton of money into.
Yeah, I think these things are, all the things Bryce brought up. These are things that worthy of talking about. And that my frustration comes from sometimes is that like and where I'm certainly guilty of being a super cheerleader. Everything's great. The other side, it's some of those criticisms, though, sometimes they're not that genuine. And that's frustrating to me. Like, there's a story that just made the rounds everywhere in the last 2 days about NASA science. NASA says the new SpaceX rocket could be really dangerous, right? Okay, and because they talk about they use for the SpaceX for the Falcon rocket, they use they super cooled oxygen and fuel goes in there, so they can fit more of it into a tank. And this is part of where they get a lot of their, their power increases from it. So this article is everywhere. Some version of this thing is everywhere and that was, the reason they had the explosion on the launch pad was because when you super cool oxygen like this, it's more likely to combust and there can be problems for doing this. Okay. So it is absolutely, a valid sort of thing to say, if we're going to start putting astronauts onto these craft, is it going to be safe? And I think that having that discussion is totally worth doing this. The problem I have is that if you pull up, Bryce, can you pull up that article again?
Yeah, I believe it's from the Washington Post here.
And there's some people criticizing, well, Bezos owns the Washington Post, but I'm like, I don't think this was.
No.
Yeah, but scroll down.
Yeah, you don't think that you could track down that Slack missive that he threw out there? Like, hey, by the way, write something that bags on SpaceX.
So.
Got an illustration here.
Points we're going through there. Stop. So you've got what's happened is that, like, in one of the articles, one of the prominent people they talk about is, they say, a NASA person who is responsible for the Boeing contract to SpaceX, the Boeing contract to the International Space Station. And you're like, wait a second. You need to clearly state, hey, yeah, by the way, Boeing is part owner of ULA, and Boeing itself is is spending Boeing has a massive campaign right now. They launched it 2 weeks ago to trash SpaceX, to like what SpaceX can't do, whatever. They've been spending a bunch of money. They talk about the Boeing built SLS, which I'm sorry, other people are building that too. And I don't know if I really want credit for that. But Boeing's been spending a ton of money, millions of dollars now in a campaign to try to spread fear, uncertainty, and doubt. This article pops up all of a sudden, and one of the chief people speaking there is somebody who is working on a massive Boeing contract. And it doesn't negate the engineering questions that we have about this. It's not like, but you're like, it's not, no attention's called to this. And I do think the Washington Post article, they should point out, hey, by the way, at the end, just FYI, our primary owner is also, his second other company is this. Not that I don't think the author has any, is
disingenuous or anything.
And not at all in respect to that. But still you should disclose that. And really the fact that Boeing, a huge competitor of SpaceX, there's a guy who's working on a Boeing contract, is one of the people voicing this concern. It's like, write the article, but point that out.
Yeah. And I think ultimately the problem is that a lot of people, even those writing articles for the Washington Post, may not be as literate about those battle lines as they probably should be. Because it's something that if you're not focused on it, then like it's something that's clear to us that here's a gigantic contractor and here's an upstart that's providing a more reliable service for cheaper and making tremendous generational changes to the technology. Then you're going to see pushback in the way that you see for many government contracts. But
yeah. So again, and with all these things, and back to what our discussion before, it's like, yeah, point out, hey, there are problems, factors, but like, and say like, maybe some of these things real, some of these things might be like, hey, there's another party here that has a vested interest in sowing discord and making you think it's worse than it is. And it may be worse than we realize. I don't know, but I don't know what to think.
Let me ask you a question, and I'm going to avoid the term unfair, but do you think that it is reductive to immediately tie how an Amazon factory worker, or a poor treatment of an Amazon factory worker, with the progress of Blue Origin? Or is it fair to say that these things are linked because Bezos is involved in both of them?
I think it's fair to link them. I think it's absolutely fair. I think it's fair to say, and you have somebody who has as much control as Jeff Bezos does, both over operationally, he has a tremendous amount of control over operationally of how Amazon functions, and he has tremendous control over Blue Origin, and he has a tremendous amount of personal wealth. I think it's absolutely fair to say, to question those things. And my answer might be like, yeah, but I'm okay, or like, you don't work in that factory, whatever. That's my take on it and my response to it. But for somebody to say, hey, I think this is fair game, I agree. I think it's fair to say, hey, you're pursuing all these values, you claim to have these values, but there are people who are making a lot of these claims here, which maybe they're legit. It kind of comes down to, sure.
Do you think that this kind of blowback has a chilling effect? Like, will we see less openness or discussion from people like maybe even the next Bezos and Musk, if they look at their reputations kind of taking a different turn and saying, well, you want to know what, maybe if I'm not going to be Elon Musk, I'm not going to be talking about cybernetic dragons when we have a bad quarter for Tesla?
Well, what you want is, if there are legit problems in the factories and not just people upset they're not getting paid enough, they're legit problems, you want them to address those problems, and so Elon Musk has been getting criticized about some of the factories, the Fremont factory in particular, about this and some conditions there. He's been criticized about this, and he has been forcefully out there like, listen, he says his point of view is like, we've looked into these things, all this. There's this effort by unions. If you look at this person who made these claims, they work for the unions trying to unionize us. They're trying to do this, blah, blah, blah. The unions are what killed the Mooney plant in Northern California, some would argue, and whatnot. And he's got reasons to say why this is problematic. And that might be what killed Detroit, some would say. But the point is, he's got a reason to be very, very anti-union. He'd rather say, let's compensate people well. But unions exist to support unions. You just got to remember that. Unions can they've served a very valuable part in American history. They've done very useful things, but they're a company into themselves. You look at what the top union leaders make as far as salaries. It is insane compared to what people say, oh, no CEO should make more than 10 times the average employee. Look what some of these union leaders make, and it way outstrips whatever you think that is. So that being said, is Elon Musk has been very out there and outspoken when he says, no, we've looked at this, and some people say, yeah, but you didn't quite answer this question, or maybe you were evasive there. But if you can't handle the scrutiny, and if you have something to hide, then yeah, you would shrink away. But
yeah,
Ryan.
Sorry, what was the question?
Never mind.
I mean, is the question like put me in the captain's seat? I mean, I don't know. I mean, like I understand where that comes from. I don't know that I have a solution, because the only solution is to why don't everybody read all the books I've read? Then you'll think what I think. I don't know.
Well, but I would say that, Brian, when you read an article, there is a question in the back of your head going, what is their agenda? what is their point of view? There's just the information, but what is the purpose? You're a critical thinker, and you go like, what is the real purpose of this? Who is saying this? What's going on here? Okay. Even when you read stuff that you read Reason and you go, yeah, this makes a point, but you're still going, yeah, but they have an agenda here. And I think that if more people had that voice in the back of their head going, okay, how would I take this? How would I, even though this conforms to everything I want to believe, how would I debunk this or take this apart? That's helpful. And I would say that's.
Sure. I don't know. I think usually the line's a little bit shorter. I think people tend to speak from the heart more often than they realize. And yes, it might be that there's a moneyed interest pushing things one way or the other. But I think it's weird. Reality is a story that we're all living our own version of, and none of us have it right, and we just all see things differently. So I think a lot of these pieces come from. They see parts of the story and they think, well, the parts that I'm seeing seem to line up with a story that I don't care for, and I'm going to call it out. And then, of course, if they ever got the rest of the story, they would, by definition, end up feeling probably the way the main actors in those stories do.
Good.
All right. So machine learning.
Man, that was a side jag.
Man, I'll save that for next week. Because we went way long on a discussion.
Dude, we're already over
not
an
only
hour.
our audience, but our host tuned out of. So let's move right into, gosh, what's this thing we do?
Oh, he's in a little thing called Johnny Quest.
It is very far down in my inbox where this recap is. Hold on.
It's been a hot minute.
All right, well, one more time, Justin. You got this.
Johnny Quest.
Obviously on
Johnny Quest.
Ladies and gentlemen, the fight you've been waiting for.
Here we go.
We have some challengers. Top door opens up, and a school bus drives through. I give you one monkey army.
It looks like medieval knights.
There is a large, furry, adorable sloth.
Oh, he outdid himself this week.
Oh my God.
Who is it that sends those in?
Steven, he's Crescent Isle on YouTube. Thank you so much, Steven.
Oh my God, that's great. Video subscribers on the YouTube channel just got a real treat.
So we are now in the middle of the most epic battle in Bryce Vegas. Justin and Brian had gone there on a secret mission to deliver a nuclear payload with what they believe was Replicant Bryce, and to kill
And
Bryce.
and replace
Yeah.
Bryce.
Dave.
Evil Bryce.
To
Hey,
Dave
we're
Bryce.
gonna Dave his ass.
Yeah.
with the promise that if they do this, the secret committee is going to let them finish this journey and complete things. But before they get to fight Bryce, the next thing you know, curtains open up, doors pull up, and they're confronted with all of their past victims, we'll say.
Yeah, we got through it. Look, it was challenging. It was rough. We did what had to be done, and finally, the epic battle. It's us versus Evil Bryce
So
in the middle of an arena, in front of the whole crowd. The door just opened. In fact, I already I
Wait
reach
a
into
minute,
my
wait a
back
minute.
pocket.
Did we dispatch the kids and the sloth? And...
You know what? That's last episode talk. Go listen to last episode. All we know is I just definitely remember it's just us and Bryce.
So you've dispatched all of your enemies and all the people you tried to help left and right. And now Bryce enters the arena.
Oh man, I rev my chainsaw arm. I reach into my back pocket to feel around if I have some 3-in-1 oil to go ahead and get everything lubed up so I could just I want everything running perfect.
Right.
Yeah.
Rev it down for a second.
Bryce is doing a pose down, by the way. He's ripped, totally ripped. He's doing a pose down for the audience, and just flexing their cheeks. So
man, Bryce is ripped.
I know. Okay, look, would you stop? You know
like
this is a point of
keto or
contention.
something.
He'll be ripped asunder when old Thermocles tears him apart.
That's good.
We
That's
want to
the
try
name of
and
my-
pull a. How about we use our strongest muscle of all, the brain, to outfox him?
Okay.
Hold on, you guys have spent this whole arc killing everything in your path indiscriminately.
And now, you know what? Yeah. Thank you, Ghost of Bryce. That while you're posing, I'm glad you did send us that telepathic thought. Yeah, no, that would be a good change of pace for us, wouldn't it?
I mean, what would we try to like get in his brain or? Oh wait, hold on, I got it.
Yeah.
Just go with me.
Okay. I back your play. And
right.
I finished lubing up my chainsaw arm, and I rev it 3 more times.
I say, Bryce, before we fight. Oh my God. I'm wearing glasses, sorry. For whatever reason.
It's a very slashable face right now. I'm just
Before we fight, I got one thing to tell you.
he's doing the Hulkamania motion.
Throughout all this apocalyptic hellscape, we've seen blood. We've seen tears. We've seen an entire society brought to its knees. But it has all happened because of one man. One man is responsible for all of this.
I jump
And
in front of him and I jump in front of you, Justin, and I say, yeah! And then I rev my engine, and then I step back behind Justin.
And that one man is Brian Brushwood.
I jump in front of Justin. I jump in front of Justin.
You out into the cold when all this was happening. He wouldn't let you in the bunker, and you have been on this path of destruction because you never got an apology.
So
now,
I jump.
Brian, it's time for you to finally bring this all to a close by apologizing without any kind of qualifiers to Bryce right now. And then I start mimicking to the crowd. Say you're sorry. Say you're sorry. All right, go ahead, Brian. No more bloodshed.
I step into a stark white spotlight in the center of the arena.
You have a cue set up.
Sad piano music starts playing in the background.
No, hold on. Wait a minute. I mean, like, I know we're going to get to the apology, but you got to warm them up. So just do the fire reading real quick. Like, you already got a spotlight. Like,
I say, shut up, bro.
Can we bring the lights down?
Yeah. So I say, it's a mixed up world we live in. Sometimes people make mistakes. Try to take everything in with a grain of salt. Sometimes you spit out bloody phlegm as a result of poisoned salt.
good metaphor is yelled from the back row.
It wouldn't be a Brian monologue without a metaphor in it.
I say,
I'm glad to see that hasn't changed, Brian.
I think I know what you want to hear. But then there's what you need to hear.
All right.
And those words are, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for turning my back on you. I'm sorry for doing podcasts with Justin while the world burned. I'm sorry that you were left isolated alone, went to Vegas, became a superpowered mech and mayor / god governor of Las Vegas. But seems to me, kid, you did pretty well for yourself. So in some ways, not all, in some ways, I feel a little bit of responsibility for how well you've done. I'm proud of you. That's
off the last part. It was good before.
I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say, Bryce, is you're welcome. And then I rev the chainsaw and I come running at him because I'm going to murder this son of a bitch.
Outside of kayfabe? Ow. That went a
You owe it all to me. And then I come attacking.
All right, so Brian charges Bryce after a total inability to say an honest "I'm sorry." Certainly ended all conflict. What happens, Andrew?
Bryce deftly deflects Brian's blow, punches Brian in the face. Brian goes sliding across the floor, and the announcer says, this Rumble's not ready to start until our celebrity referee is here. Ladies and gentlemen, I direct your eyes to the ceiling as we bring in our celebrity referee. You know him already. Probably one of the most famous people of the 20th century. And he's been there throughout this journey.
The whole time.
I give you Hitler.
Oh, no! God.
How are we going to get a fair shake from Hitler?
Music plays, martial music lowers, and they're in a referee uniform, but it is Hitler. I was like...
I was like, Hitler. I'm sorry, Mr. Hitler. Can we trust you to be fair in this?
9.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I run over to Justin, shaking off, kind of rubbing my jaw. And I was like, "Whew! All right, I don't think we're gonna get a fair shake in this fight, buddy. I think we're gonna have to straight up murder him."
Hitler, meanwhile,
Okay.
Bryce
So number
winks
one.
at Bryce openly, they high five each other.
Yeah, all right. Let's just gloss over the "I'll back your play" thing. We'll deal with that later.
Oh, was that not what you wanted? I thought I nailed it, man.
Let's not. I'm not here to litigate the past.
Oh,
Let's
man.
move forward. I grab the mic and say, Hitler, you did pretty good with a 1-front war. You lost a 2-front war, but guess what? Now you've got a 3-front war on your hands. Let's all kill Hitler. Who cares? There's no rules. And I run and charge after Hitler to punch him in the face.
I take just a moment and put a hand to my chin and think, wow, it was right in front of us the whole time. We always think of it as a theoretical scenario of what would you do? Would I rather kill Bryce or Hitler? I would rather kill Hitler. And I turn to Bryce and I say, Bryce, you're cool. And I go to join killing Hitler. So I come running up trying to kill the referee as well.
I attempt to do one of my epic uppercuts on Hitler, sending him stories into the air.
And
You do an uppercut as Hitler goes back. Brian swipes with his chainsaw and decapitates Hitler.
Oh, we did it! We did it! And I check in real quick with my Hitler-based AI, and I was just like, "You're cool with this, right?"
I guess so now, Brian.
Okay, good. All right, good.
I mean, I guess it's better to apologize than ask for.
When it comes to the chance to kill Hitler, come on.
Ladies and gentlemen, the match is over because we lost our referee.
We can't have a fight to the death now.
Okay.
What are we going to do? We can't have a fight to the death without a referee.
I sort of I take a moment. I disarm myself. I take off the chainsaw and just sort of my whole body posture indicates that I'm relaxed. And I was like, so what? We reschedule, Bryce? We'll do this like next Thursday or something.
I don't know when I'm going to get another Hitler anytime soon.
Well, we're gonna have to book another venue, or can we use the same venue? Is there anything happening?
Oh no, I own this whole town, all the people in it. You, by stepping in it, I own you. So.
Great. Okay, so
hey guys, wait a minute. What do you say? I know the fans are still here and they're watching. What do you say? Just for old time's sake, you want to get a meal? You guys hungry? You want to go?
That actually
get
sounds
the
really
buffet?
good.
Let's just talk this out.
killing Hitler got
Bryce,
me real.
and
hungry.
remember, you could tell them, there's a Las Vegas, Oakland, Burbank Hyperloop that you have.
Oh yeah, that's right. I have it goes straight there. It goes direct to Justin and Andrew's house.
Well, so
it's a two-stop.
How about we do this? We will pinky promise, and you know how I feel about the pinky promise. Now I don't have a pinky in my right hand anymore, but my left hand pinky promise. Don't worry, nothing's underboard there. We'll be back. You give us a reschedule date. We'll do this fight to the death.
Brian, I'll be back. Your work is here, repairing your broken relationship. with the man whose vengeance, because of your abandonment, has created a monster. We have an opportunity. I can go take care of Andrew and Ashley if they're alive. It's time that you finally made things right.
Well, you know what? Let's do that right now. Bryce, now that the lights aren't on and I'm not putting on a show, I think I could say that I've always valued your hard
lights are
work.
all still on, and we're still in the center of
Minutes
this
of-
gigantic full Coliseum.
Shh, Justin, I'm trying to have a moment here.
I'm with you. All right. Go.
I've always appreciated everything you've done, and I'm really, genuinely, without qualifications, sorry that you got left out of the shelter.
Thank you, Brian. Well, you know, what if we did this?
Huh?
If I hold you as collateral.
Oh, I thought you were going to say join us, and we could make it all three of us could.
No, I mean, I'm still pretty upset. I mean, it's been a minute.
Okay.
Like you remember when you just like gave me that apology burn like 5
Well,
minutes
okay,
ago?
but I mean that's the show, and I know we're still doing the show right now. I know the spotlight's still on right now, but yeah, I mean surely you could appreciate the comedic timing of that. I mean it was the one play.
Well, I don't know what you guys were planning on, but I don't know that was your only move specifically.
Okay, you know what? Let's put a pin in this. What? Why? How about we're just gonna run out?
Wait, hold on. You're gonna put a pin in him taking you hostage?
Yes, I'm trying to work out a thing here, Justin. Why?
Now you're telling Justin to play along. Okay, I see. Okay, I get the dynamic here. I got it.
I'm just saying. What say we reschedule this? We'll be right back. We're just gonna run, save my wife, my kids, Justin, Ashley. Oh, I guess my wife and kids are dead. That's the one thing.
Hitler's head is still talking. This guy's worse than me.
Without looking, I just kind of kick to the right and hope to knock Hitler's decapitated head a few feet away. I mean, are you gonna make a thing out of this, Bryce? Can we just come back and fight to the death like
I'm
gentlemen?
gonna put you in a very tiny cage, and Justin can come back to save you when he's done checking out.
You're gonna split the
coast.
party. You're gonna split the party. This is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's your city, so I guess you get to.
Whoa. Bryce, come on. You know Brian. It took a lot for him to say that he's sorry. At least put him in like the hotel suites that the Saudi Arabian prince did to the rest of his corrupt family.
Oh, and you know what? Just for old times, look, we'll still fight to the death. I understand we got beef,
fight to death.
but maybe at one of
Don't
these
put him in the
theaters.
cage. Come on, we're making progress here.
For old
One
time's
good,
sake.
gesture deserves another. We'll leave Brian here. Just put him in a nice room.
But-
I'll be right
I'll
back.
tell you what. Also, tradesies. You want to make some money? Make all your followers happy? Let's just do the magic show one more time. We'll do the bizarre magic show. I'll do the fire eating bit, the whole thing. I don't know if I could do it with just one hand, but I'll try.
But wait a minute. Hold on, Brian. There's only one problem.
What?
You don't. If I'm gone,
Sweet.
you don't have anybody who knows all the cues and where to set everything up. If only there was one person who's set everything up in the past and maybe could set up one last magic show.
I very slowly and deliberately raise an eyebrow and look directly over at Bryce expectantly.
So I just want to make it clear that the two of you who I assumed died and left me for dead in the actual apocalypse have come back and want me to tech your stage show instead of killing you to death.
Well, you still get to kill us to death. We'll still fight to the death, just at a future
nothing's
date.
changing. Nothing's changing.
In the meantime, we make people happy. We relive the old days. Maybe we remember what was great about things before everybody died of the disease.
Hey, I'm just a random guy in the front row. What if I got a suggestion
Yeah,
here.
what's up,
I used to do
front
group
row?
therapy, by the way, okay? Worked for Jonestown, went there, did some sessions from there. The David Koresh cult, I helped those people out, did
Okay.
some sessions there. Spent 20 years working in North Korea, helping them work on, community relations and stuff. So I have a lot of good ideas. I'm very in demand. What if, Bryce, you tech their show for the audience here, right? You tech their show.
Okay.
Then after the show, if some of the people are still around and still hanging around, you could do a little show for them.
You could do a DJ set.
Me?
Yeah.
So Brian would be your opening act.
Oh, look at you. You finally made it. You're a headliner in Vegas, and I'm just your opening act. Wouldn't that be great?
I own Vegas.
Well, yes. But have you ever had Brian Brushwood open for you? That would be amazing.
In fact, I'll tell you what. The signs just came in for the show. Look how tiny Brian's name is.
Oh, it's so
His name
tiny.
is so
My
much
name's
bigger.
Your name is huge. It says Bryce, Bryce.
It looks like Brian's like some sort of legalese that you just have to put on the side because otherwise it would be a problem. Anyway, I'm gonna get on this Hyperloop and go try to rescue Andrew and my wife, which is the point of this year-long journey. Bye.
Bye. All right, take care, Justin.
All right.
Did he make it? Andrew? Did Justin make it out?
Yeah, it's fast. The Hyperloop is fast, Brian. Don't you get the point of the Hyperloop?
No, I meant is Justin fast enough to escape the guards who almost surely are blocking his egress?
No, they're actually very helpful.
Oh, damn it. Okay.
I don't know if you know this. Bryce's real beef is with you, Brian.
Is that? Yeah, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, it just doesn't track. Sorry.
Hi, Lyle, group therapist here.
Yeah, what's up, Lyle?
Lyle. Bryce, who would you say your biggest grievance is with?
Oh, I think it would be with Brian A. Brushwood.
Okay,
who
cool.
Kicked me.
Is this Brian here? Is this Brian Brushwood here?
I believe so.
That's look. I'm sorry, Lyle. That's your name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lyle.
Okay. Look, this is the kind of thing Bryce says all the time. It's fine.
Oh, so here's
Yeah,
Bryce
that's what I've been
now.
saying since you left me for dead years ago.
Let me ask you a question.
Don't you remember the Puppet Theater like 3 Journey Quests ago?
Look, Lyle. He means well. It's just
See, Lyle.
Little therapy here. Let's talk about something. Bryce, when you masqueraded as Replicant Bryce and went on the road trip with them, clearly dropping as many clues as possible that it was actually you, because the only time you and Replicant Bryce were in the same point was when what was obviously a fake latex doll was torn apart that tasted like Caro syrup, but nobody picked up on it because they're too self-obsessed. How did it make you feel when you gave them a chance to restart things all the way back in Beef Jerky Rolled, all the way back in Texas with Replicant Bryce, when they then shoved you into the corner of the Winnebago, when they mistreated you again, and you went through all of these abuses over and over again? How did that make you feel?
Bring, bring, bring. Brian's cell phone's ring.
Oh, hang on. I reached down with my left hand, my one good hand.
It's a flip phone, by the way.
Go time. What's up?
Hey, it's Justin. They got cell service on this Hyperloop. It's great.
That's convenient.
How are things going?
Arriving now at the Oakland station.
They're talking, bunch of words.
Whatever you do, just don't make it worse by the time I get there. All right, because there's going to be a real chance that I'm going to bring back Ashley and Andrew.
Okay.
If we're at a certain death scenario, literally just make sure that things are better by the time that I get there. Okay, I'm getting off. I'm sorry. Bye.
Okay. All right. Bye. Click. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. So we're about done here. Everything's wrapped up. We're all.
I was gonna say
great?
the actions made me feel like he was being selfish. I don't know,
Oh.
if taking a phone call in the middle of my answer in the therapy session about the situation is a direct parallel to it. I might say it's an even direct act of selfishness.
Oh.
So we have some solutions, Bryce. You've brought up. I know. Brian, we've actually been talking. I've been talking about this with Bryce before because he's trying to be the peacemaker here. Bryce had suggested one solution was complete dismemberment.
Yeah.
Okay,
That'd be great. I would love that.
What about? What if we meet halfway? A partial dismemberment.
Well, he did talk about reverse organ transplants instead of putting pig parts in a human. What if you put your organs inside of pigs?
I mean, you know what? Let's do one better. I'll crawl all my organs. I'll just crawl inside a pig and then bust out like Alien. I'll go blah because I got this chainsaw arm. I can carve my way out of the pig.
Interesting but cruel, Brian. There is a cruelty streak here.
It would be a dead pig. Come on, I'm not a savage.
Wait, hold on. Do I find my wife?
Yeah, you go to your apartment. Ashley's like, "Hey, you've been gone a while, Justin. What's going on?"
I'm like, you wouldn't believe it if I told you. Come on to the Hyperloop, and we get on the Hyperloop and head down
I
to
was just like,
Burbank.
wait. Bonnie's coming over with Brian's kids, by the way.
Oh my God, they're alive! Let's get on the Hyperloop. You don't know when any of this is happening.
Yeah.
In fact, I call Brian.
I'm like, yo, what's up? What's up?
Hey man, what's up?
Yeah, I don't, they're still talking. I'm trying to. Do you have any tricks to shut up therapists? I say in front of a therapist.
Sorry. Hey, we're gonna break it up here. Hey, by the way.
Oh, damn. Okay. Sorry.
Brian, your feelings hurt me, and your what you said hurt my feelings, and I'm going to suggest that you and I go to a group therapy session.
All right. I fire up the chainsaw and I kill Lyle. I just shove it right through.
Guard to the tiny cage.
I screaming against the pulling guards as they take me to the tiny cage. I was like, sorry, that wasn't personal, Bryce. I swear,
Make it
wasn't personal.
an extra dark tiny cage.
Damn it.
Hi, I'm Kyle, Lyle's twin brother, and Brian. I don't want to wag my finger at you, but I'm going to do this. I'm uncomfortable with the choices you have made.
I turned to the guards and I said, just give me 10 seconds. Just 10 seconds. And I revved the chainsaw hand again.
Smash cut to the Hyperloop stopping in Burbank. I run into Andrew's apartment. Is Andrew there?
Hey, what's up, Justin? It's been a
Oh
while.
my God! You survived on granola bars and bottled water. It's almost as if
Well, it wasn't
you
really
traded your
that
entire
bad
life
here,
for this.
actually. It was more of a Texas sort of thing, and more of a voluntary kind of thing. It was a voluntary apocalypse. I don't know if you knew this.
Wait, really? Everyone else is fine?
Well, I mean, didn't you wonder like why you had amusement parks, beef jerky stores, and all this other stuff going on?
Not really. No, things got really out of hand really fast.
I mean, did you think the Zeppelin manufacturing industry, was really going to just start up after the apocalypse?
you seem to know a lot about our journey. How did you follow it?
Oh, because I've been listening to the Journey Quest podcast.
Oh,
I'm a Patreon supporter, by the way.
that's amazing. You want to come with us to Bryce Vegas? We're at what would seem to be the end of the story.
Sure. How are we going there? Hyperloop?
The Hyperloop.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I got 12 minutes.
All right, so me, Andrew, Ashley, Bonnie, and the kids all get on the Hyperloop on the way to Bryce Vegas, and let's have us emerge. I triumphantly walk in, and I'm like, all right. Also, by the way, I'm explaining to everybody in the Hyperloop, don't worry. I left Brian there, so I'll apologize to Bryce, and everything will be smoothed over. If I know my best friend Brian, then everything will be totally smooth. We will be welcomed as returning heroes now that all of these loose ends have been tied up. I held up my end of the bargain, and Brian's not one to leave me hanging. Here we go.
What you're about to emerge. The Hyperloop is like on its way. A scientist comes running in, right? And whispers to Bryce, Boss, we figured it out. You know how, we were watching Empire Strikes Back and Han Solo got frozen in carbonite, and you said that's really cool. I'd like to be able to do that. You told me to make that happen.
Yeah.
But I wasn't really quite paying attention, but I kind of figured out something kind of cool. I thought, because I was eating like a sugar daddy at the time, I thought you said Carmelite. So I figured out a way to freeze a man in delicious, chewy caramel.
Wow. That's a longer explanation for that. Wow.
Right. This is the hallmark of all the
So what I'm
best stories.
saying is, if you
All
had
the
somebody
best stories
in
that
a
have
tiny
a new
little
character
container,
that uses the sentence,
that
"I
you
was
didn't
eating
want
a
to get
sugar
free,
daddy at the time."
we could freeze him in Carmelite.
I see. Prepare the Carmelite treatment.
Hey, Bryce, this is a really tiny cage. This cage is super
and-
small.
And how dark is it?
It's
a
very dark
Hyperloop.
in here.
And Bryce turns to Justin and yells to Brian, rather, any last words for either one of you?
I emerge with the entire group singing "Hey Jude" as a sign of peace. Na 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 na. Hey Jude, Judy now.
Brian is strapped against the wall, and all of a sudden, delicious caramel starts to pour over him.
I try to eat as much of the
Bryce!
caramel as I can, and all the while thinking about how, well, there goes my diet. Nom, 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 nom.
Bryce, everyone's alive. As it turned out, the apocalypse really wasn't all that widespread. And Andrew pointed out a lot of really, really, really gigantic logical points that we should have latched onto way earlier in this story.
Nom,
But,
nom, 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 nom.
no, don't put Brian in Carmelite. We can all have a happy ending. Not in the weird, just in the story. Moving on.
Nom, nom, nom.
Brian tries to eat, and his belly distends tremendously. He eats an amazing, probably 40 pounds of caramel. So now he just looks sort of fat, really, really fat.
I
You've gotten your final punishment. There is nothing worse that you could do to him. Please, he's had enough.
Oh, but no, now he's a solid block of Carmelite frozen there, his mouth open, and his stomach distended with caramel. And now Bryce says, "You may have him." Just science, like, yeah, just don't put it out in the sun because it'll melt.
Yeah.
Well, how do I get him out of the Carmelite?
Ice cream?
Yeah, ice cream. I mean, you just melt it, really. It's caramel.
yeah, I think he quite literally just gave you the answer, Justin.
The question is to Brian's family, Justin, Andrew, everybody, Ashley, like, do you want him out?
Man, that sounds like a cliffhanger of a question.
Brian's like, I can hear you.
Like, you know, just mouth it out.
Well,
So yeah,
I mean,
you now have. Bryce says, "I give you frozen fat, Brian."
well, how long would it take to melt him?
I mean, the hot Las Vegas sun. I mean, 2 minutes.
Oh, I mean, like, so we can just go to a restaurant, just leave him outside.
Yeah.
All right, you guys want to do that?
He's learned his lesson.
Death would be too good for you.
So we go to the party goes to Johnny Rockets.
Yeah, or you go to Bubba Gump's Shrimp Company.
Yeah,
Did you invite Bryce?
Bryce, it would be our honor if you would join us for a meal. And don't worry, before I left, I stole Brian's credit card. He's gonna be paying for it.
Oh, I'd be happy to join you.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Na 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 na.
Journey Quest.
Journey now.
has been quested.
Woo! That was a surprise. I did not realize we were going to wrap up the story. That was amazing.
We're there. It's done.
Incredible. Incredible.
Oh.
So, anybody have any picks?
Hey, I saw The Avengers 2 more times in the last week since we last talked.
So did you like it?
Sorry.
Do you want to do Avengers as after things?
Yeah, I do.
Sure.
Cool. Let's do some quick picks. So, that is the wrap of Journey Quest. Journey
Yeah.
Quest.
I mean, we could start, who's to say, if you guys enjoyed it, let us know.
Yeah. There's always room for Toonie Quest, we have to work on a better name.
I think some form of adventure could
Oh
continue.
yeah, if only we'd been planning, or one of us had been planning a new adventure.
Oh. So I've got a pick. I just finished the book last night. It's called When Breath Becomes Air. It is from a neuroscientist and a neurologist who,
Paul Kalanithi.
yes, he's dead. And it's about him finding out at the age of 35 that he has really bad cancer, very aggressive cancer, and that he's going to die. And he goes from somebody who, as a resident, constantly is dealing with death, and instead finds death making, as he describes it, a personal visit. And it's an interesting book because it tells the story and then just sort of takes then there's a hiccup. There's suddenly an epilogue written by his wife about the rest of his tale. And
Wow.
it is not as depressing as you would think it is. In fact, it actually is very positive and forward focused. At the end, when you hear from an actual human being who knew this man as her spouse and life partner, describes his final days, it's a bit heart-wrenching, but in a shockingly fulfilling way. It's a wonderful read, and I did it on Audible. Don't worry, you're not going to be crying in public, but just when you get to that last chapter, maybe make sure you're not out and about.
Cool. Justin?
My pick is... Man, I don't know what my pick is going to be. Andrew, you go.
Bryce.
Oh, I got a pick. I just finished a game that I had been playing apparently for 90 hours over the past few months since I got my Switch. It is Picross S. I really love puzzle games and logic games, and so Picross S is a really well featured Picross game.
What is Picross?
So Picross, they give you a grid that sort of looks like a Sudoku grid, sort of, but it has numbers on the top of the rows and on the left of the columns. And so you use the numbers to determine what squares to fill in. So like in this column here, it says 5, 3, 1. That means that there are 5 squares that are filled in next to each other. There's at least 1 space, and then 3 that are filled in next to each other, and then at least 1 space, and then a 1. And so you use that logic of, okay, well, if this is the configuration, then X squares will always be filled in. These squares definitely cannot be filled in.
This is one of those games where you eliminate everything that can't be true and then inductively figure out what it must be.
Yeah, and it has its own special mode called Mega Picross, where it will merge 2 rows or columns together. And you'll have to. It has its own rules of how you determine what squares are filled in between both of them. But it's really great. It has a really good tutorial. Also, if you don't know anything about Picross, this tutorial will give you pretty much everything you need to know to kind of get into it. Like I said, I spent 90 hours on this game, and wow. I want even more of it. It's really good. It also has multiplayer, which is weird. Like you play the same puzzle at the same time, and you just get points for being the person to fill in a correct square. Oh, so the one to work faster than the other guy? Yeah, basically. But you could use it cooperatively, and it also has assists and other hints and stuff if you're not used to Picross. But it's Picross S on the Switch. It's $8, and I spent 90 hours with it.
90 hours, wow.
It's incredible.
Hey, Bryce, you know what 90 hours is to me? A novel writing.
I expanded my brain.
Hey, man, we just had a big breakthrough.
Boys, don't need to fight about it.
And that was over a long period.
Quick one. Westworld. No. It's good now. Before it was bad. Now it's good.
I'm holding you up to that, Justin, because you know you'll get an angry phone call from me.
Yeah, I will. I'm curious to know your opinion. Here's all I'll say. Even if you don't necessarily think it's good, it's at least interesting.
It's so much better. It's certainly better.
Cool. I'm excited. I can't wait. I have 2 picks. One, if you're not watching Barry on HBO, check out Barry.
I watched the first episode of it, and I enjoyed it. Does it get more exciting? Better?
I would say I mean, for me, it's fun. It's interesting. Like Silicon Valley is just not a fun show for me anymore. You know, like I used to like Silicon Valley, and now Silicon Valley, it's like you're just like, we're gonna do this plot line again. We're gonna follow the characters doing this thing and this thing. And Barry, at least, is kind of it's Bill Hader. He plays a Iraq War veteran who is now working as a hitman. Gets sent to Los Angeles on a hit and stumbles into an acting class led by Henry Winkler, aka the Fonz, and decides that he likes this acting thing. Meanwhile, he's still got to be a hitman. And Stephen Root is the guy he works for. And Stephen Root's fantastic. I mean, the cast is amazing. Henry Winkler is Gene Constantino, this sort of kind of has-been actor teaching an acting class, is just a delight. So if you just kind of watch it for the performances kind of thing, I mean, I enjoy it a lot. So
Awesome.
Cool.
Justin, you seen this at all?
I have not yet, but I am excited. It's only because we are digging our way out of a backlog of TV. But I'm excited to get to Barry because I love Bill Hader. I think Bill Hader is amazing.
So my other pick is it's a Netflix doc. It's This Is Bob Hope, which Bob Hope's one of my heroes. And I love Bob Hope, so I recommend check out This Is Bob Hope. Just a really amazing person in the 20th century that's worth. He had a show business career that spanned 100 years, so kind of worth checking out. So, gentlemen, it's been weird.
Nice.
Was this a prearranged thing that this was going to be the last episode of Journey Quest and I didn't get the memo, or did it just organically happen?
I had discussed with Justin the thought of like, let's wrap up Journey Quest, because then we could wrap that up. We could have a complete journey, and then we could put it into its own, feed, or put it all on one file and something, and then start something new.
Sure. Okay. Right on.
Are you okay with
I
this?
think
We
it was a while
Oh,
ago.
no.
It was like a month before Andrew went to hell and became a robot and came back. That we first had that conversation. So I knew that we were moving, like that. Our showdown with Bryce
Was the final battle? Okay.
Yeah, seemed like something that we could end on, and as we got closer, I think that this just kind of felt like it was the way to push it.
Yeah. No, it was.
Andrew starts introducing the Hyperloop that goes directly from Oakland to Burbank. Then I'm like, all right, here we go. Let's get on the slip and slide to the end of this story.
That was fun. That was really fun.
Yeah.
Here, I'm gonna run to the restroom and see if there are any children in the house.
I'm gonna do the same thing.
Oh, well, my stuff broke, so we'll still be online, but I might have to restart this computer and some phone calls. Let's see if I can solve this. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Broken Things. We got some fucking broken shit right now. Just all of my poops and stuffs. No, I need end task. Okay, you're not doing that. So, I got this. I got it. We're gonna close the program. No, don't report the problem to Microsoft. Just close the program. No, I have to restart this computer. Okay. No. Okay, well, I have to start. I have to stop this recording. At least I can do that. I can at least save it. Look at this. I almost restarted this computer without saving the file. So I'm gonna hit 2018. 0507. We'll just go with good discussion. That would be a good discussion. So we use vMix for our live switching, which is really nice. I do like it. I think, I don't know if this is a network thing or something with Mouse Without Borders, because that also stopped working. But yeah, we use vMix for all this stuff. Excuse me. And it's great, and I love it. And thankfully, we have a separate computer that just does the encoding, so I can restart this one, and we won't lose too much. We won't have to lose the stream. I know we are frozen. Have it fixed very shortly. I'm just gonna put on a little bit of music while I work to get everything back. Make sure I save this audio. I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna make a new time code. I'm gonna have to just do 2 tonight. We'll do After Things 2018 05 07. Done. Great. All right. Do. And okay, that's saved. Okay. All right, so we're starting the computer. Should be up in just a few minutes. I just gotta reload the template, and we'll be good. Thank you for your patience, everybody. I'm glad that it waited until the break between shows to break. I don't know how that happened so perfectly. Yeah. And the end of Journey Quest. It'll be. I'm sad to see it go, but I'm excited to see something new from the Journey Quest slot. And I just spilled a lot of soda. Oh, all over me. Oh, it's on my. Oh. That's great. I'm doing great today, everybody. I'm glad nobody could see it because it was so embarrassing how bad I fucking missed my mouth. This is a very good but thin shirt, so it's not observing too much. Hey, computer, post, please. Hey, computer. Computer, post. And post. And post. Computer, post. Okay, I'm gonna have to restart this computer, maybe? It's not the first time it's done this on me lately, either. Alright, take two. Take two. We got this. We got this. We got this. You know what I found out over the weekend with Gailing and calling me a sugary mess? We were doing a video about breaking stuff, and we ended up breaking a Diet Dr. Pepper in a very interesting way. And our guest expert told us that that Diet Coke does not get sticky. Like if you spill Coke, it gets super sticky. But if it's Diet, it won't. And I think I asked him if it was the sugar or what, but yeah, I guess apparently there's something in it that just makes it not sticky. That's super weird. The idea that like, oh yeah, like it's not all sodas. It's just like, well, I'm not gonna say the real ones, but we all know what it is. Amuse Least says it's because it's aspartame instead of sugar. Yeah, I mean that's what I assumed it was. Or I guess corn syrup, high fructose. Do not install the new Skype. No. Open up the Skype again. Open up the other one. Hit these buttons. No. Okay, got Andrew back on the line. Got Justin back on the line. Thank you for your patience. Everything broke. We'll have video to you in just a second. I gotta reload that too.
Take your time.
I'm really glad that the computer waited to break until the show was over.
So, I have a question.
Yeah.
You see the whole thing about the guy that used his drone to save a puppy?
No, I didn't see that.
Well, it's this guy apparently took a drone, modded the drone, and then used it to pick up a puppy from a drain or something like this.
Huh.
I'm like, listen, this actually happened great, but this reads like, I remember when the UFO kid thing happened. Oh, my kid's in this UFO and it's flying away.
Oh, the balloon boy.
Were like, BS, and trying to be very polite about this. Like, I keep like, you know, he's supposed to have built this grasper thing that then grasped the dog and rescued it and all that. I'm calling, like, apparently this dog was stuck down there, and he built this drone to, like, with a grasper, is going to go down there and rescue it, and had a heart rate monitor and all this other stuff.
That dude tossed that dog in there.
I think that, because, like, I don't know if we've seen the video of the thing, you know, the starting point of this thing of, like, how it did this. Like, I'm calling fake.
It's very convenient. It would seem that he had a whole big harness thing, and the dog knew to get in the harness. And...
Well, it was supposed to be a grasping mechanism. There's just so many things about this story that are like, I don't know.
That dog seems really calm.
Well, and like the thing, how he got into the harness in the first place, like, you know, what all this sort of. I'm just.
Yeah, that's weird.
I don't know. And I apologize if this is sincere and it's this. I apologize. But I'm also like, we may have had a guy that, you know, for attention, put a puppy in a drone to, you know. So listen, if this guy is real, I apologize. But otherwise, like, everybody's like, oh, it's so adorable, he rescued a puppy. They're like, there's some technical things in here that I didn't quite. I'm like, how did they do this? And like, I haven't seen any video how he did these things. So I'm like, meh.
So you guys wanted to just do a spoiler cast for Infinity War?
Yeah.
For After Things?
Yep.
Alrighty.
Because I think it's close enough to what we're doing with After Things in that as a business, I don't know, as a business strategy in the entertainment biz, it's a remarkable achievement.
Yep.
Cool. Let's go do it then. Oh, I got to start. That's right. I have to start another audio recording. Sorry, give me 1 extra minute. Everything broke, Brian. Everything broke like the second you walked out of the room.
Yeah.
Including our
What's funny is I
hearts,
wanted to continue Journey Quest Bride and be like, well, that's what I'm very important, Bryce.
Use that voice. You did the voice. All right. Audio is going. This is the audio After Things podcast. All right. Take it away, Andrew, in 3, 2.
Welcome to After Things. I'm Andrew Main, joined by Justin Robert Young,
Hello.
Brian Brushwood,
Ahoy!
and our producer, Mr. Bryce Castillo.
Hi, everybody.
Gentlemen, we are here on an auspicious occasion. It was 10 years ago that scrappy underdog film studio comic book company Marvel decided that they needed to reorganize the way their properties were handled. They needed to try to get a grasp on storytelling. They wanted to take the incredible potential that they had, and particularly under the leadership mainly of Kevin Feige, who was responsible for the Marvel, movie initiative. At this point, they had projects. They had a film project at Paramount with Robert Downey Jr. playing Iron Man. They had another film project over at Universal with the Hulk, and other projects in the pipeline. And they realized, man, we're spread out across different studios, but maybe we could try to make these movies better, unify them, because there have been some misfires. They'd watch some Marvel properties, maybe get a little bit of heat and then fall apart. And granted, the success of movies, comic book movies could have arguably started even 10 years before that with Blade. Blade was like the first real cool Marvel comic book movie out. DC had Batman and Superman before that, but Blade was a really cool turning point. Then X-Men was a great one for Fox. But then Marvel, trying to take ownership of its titles and really handle it well, launched the start of the MCU with Iron Man back in 2008. Disney, right thereafter, came along and said, we like Marvel, we like the property, we like the potential of the properties, we actually like the way you guys are trying to run things. Bought Marvel, and then actually bought the rights to, do the Iron Man movies and everything else from Paramount, and negotiated Universal, etc. And later on, you'll never see Spider-Man in the Avengers. Well, guess what? They made a deal with Sony, and Spider-Man's the Avengers. And here we are 10 years later. There have been how many Marvel movies now? The MCU?
2022, I think.
Or 19, 18 or 19, I think. We just lost a lot of our geek credibility.
Yeah. How weird that we would need to know that. Well, it's also a little bit mushy because I know that there's a declared barrier of these are and are not in the
19
MCU.
films. 19.
But then there's also, you know, if you're a fan of Marvel, it's harder to separate some of the other ones.
Well, I mean, I look at what's under the auspices of Kevin Feige and what he's done versus when other studios control it, because I can say, yeah, somebody can say we have the rights to make, you know, a Spider-Man movie, but is it the core team doing the MCU? And to me, there's a big difference. MCU movies are far and beyond are fantastic. There have been some good X-Men movies. There have been some crappy ones, but that's not MCU. That's not Feige. It's not that group. It's other people who are controlling the rights to it, and Marvel has input. But that's what I think the success of the MCU has been, is that it has been, you know, what the idea that, you know, once that they were going to take over it, handle this, and Disney was going to acquire or get back the rights to as much as they can. That was the big change, rather, you know.
So is X-Men is not in the MCU? Is Deadpool in the MCU?
No. Deadpool and X-Men are owned by Fox, which now may become Disney properties, but will they be incorporated in the MCU? But no, they're not in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They exist in totally different realms from, you know, so if you look, here's the list.
A Deadpool, because of that content, makes more wink wink kind of references to it because of the meta nature of that character than any of the other movies do.
Yeah, that's
like when they went to do the Deadpool movie, you know, they went to Kevin Feige and said, "Hey, we want to do kind of a nod." So there's like a helicarrier appears in Deadpool, right? But it's not called a helicarrier. It's not this, because those are rights that belong to Disney. You know, it's a convoluted sort of thing.
Well, and we also saw a touch of that at the end of was it Ultron, when they didn't call them mutants, but Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver were major parts of the story. They're like, I don't know, they're just people.
Fox owns that, so that's been the convoluted thing. But so the MCU is straight up the Iron Man, Hulk, Iron Man 2, Captain America, Ant-Man, Doctor Strange, those sort of things. Those are the ones that are originally went from Paramount Universal over to Disney, and then the Disney produced ones. So you have now 19 films that came out. Marvel started with Iron Man and worked their way through, and then we finally got...
Don't forget about all of the Netflix properties. You had
yes,
because those are in the same universe very, very clearly. They're in the MCU.
They're getting pushed further away, and they're making less references to them, and they've kind of given up trying to incorporate them.
Okay.
And it's a different team that sort of runs those than, you know, the MCU sort of stuff, and those have been uneven. Some have been great, some have been not. But yeah, they do. It started off like, it's all going to be this. They're going to be the TV shows that interrelate, and then they would kind of like the TV shows would reference the movies, but notice the movies don't reference really the TV shows. But as a filmic property, we're now 19 films into the arguably probably the most successful film franchise ever now.
So is this? Yes, it's definitely new territory to see this level of integration and unified storytelling. But in so many ways, it occurred to me, and it really became abundantly clear watching the Avengers: Infinity War, how much of this had already been done in the comic books. Like that experience, all they're doing is taking to a new medium the experience that was very familiar 20 years ago as I was reading the comic books.
Brian, you did an all they did.
I did an all they did. Okay, sorry. I don't want to diminish the extraordinary artistic achievement that we've had privilege to witness, but it is remarkable to me that the insight of what they did could be reduced to basically, let's just do what already worked in the comic books on the big screen.
And that's sort of the brilliance of it was these were people that loved the comics and knew there's a reason Justin and Brian and Andrew, these guys loved these stories. Let's not try to change it and go like, oh, no, we need to make it grittier. We got to get rid of the powers. We got to do this and that. They weren't trying to fix things that didn't need to be fixed.
Yeah.
They were trying to bring...
This source material was not something that needed to be, well, how do we water it down? Because nobody who doesn't know who Thor is going to really want to see a god from Asgard who's wearing a cape and has a hammer. Like, we got to obviously make him a dentist from Detroit who happens to have a hammer at some point, because that's what audiences really want, are, you know, people that they understand and they know and they can relate to. They didn't read all these comic books, so they don't want any of the this kind of stuff. Or the opposite version of, like, well, what they really want is just, you know, the hammer and the cape, and let's focus on all that, and let's really just drill down on these little minutia nerd things. They realize, no, these are stories that have been told and retold and retold and retold for decades now. I mean, coming up on a century soon commercially, for a reason, because they resonate, because they're there. And yes, it does. The idea that there is a richer world that you are tapping into is a feature, not a bug. You don't need to understand all of it. You can leave these tendrils out that can either spin off into new stories for the universe or just serve as rewards for people that are paying attention. And that turned out to be, I mean, Jesus, the unlocking of Fort Knox for modern entertainment.
I remember when Iron Man came out, the most successful superhero stories at the time was Batman. And Batman Begins and in Dark Knight had avoided too many really supernatural aspects. You know, the Ra's al Ghul and whatnot, like maybe it's drug induced. There's a little bit tinges of that. Nobody was flying. Nobody was doing things that clearly violated physics. Iron Man came out, it was a science fiction story. There was nothing about aliens. There's nothing about this. So it was a straight up kind of like, let's make a fun Batman kind of story. Yeah. And it knocked it out of the park. And then when they announced that, like, and then Hulk came out, and Hulk was sort of a science fiction kind of, had good parts to it, but ultimately
it was a monster movie, right?
Yeah, and it could have been, I think could have even embraced that even more. I think would have been great. But then when they announced, oh yeah, we're going to do Thor.
Thor was the first one that I was like, I can conceive of no world where Thor would be a good movie. And Captain America, it just epitomized cheeseball, you know, Marvelness that I just couldn't even fathom. Like, and
so look at this. This is the initial three, right? May 2008, Iron Man comes out of the box, huge hit. Everybody's responding to and loves all the Shield stuff. You know, now this is the comic book movie of our dreams, kind of stuff. Incredible Hulk, a disappointment, and then Iron Man 2, which gets clipped by the writer's strike and is not as good as it probably could have been. And then, like, you realize how much depended on Thor, right? Like
well, Thor wasn't even that great. It was surprising, but it gets graded on a curve. I think it set out to do a more ambitious thing by making credible the idea of this Asgardian god. You know, the Rainbow Bridge did not look nearly as awesome in the comic books as it's represented in the movie. The Bifrost.
I think Thor was the most important film in the Marvel universe for Marvel to have the scope. And without Thor work, and Thor, like, I enjoy Thor, and I get, like, Thor could have been better. Like, that last act was kind of like, I remember, like, in Gladiator, like, oh, we're going to rescue you and we're going to have a revolution. Like, yeah. And then, no, that Gladiator doesn't have that, you know, but after you see it and you accept it, when you watch Gladiator again, it becomes better. Thor, you're waiting for the big assault on Asgard, everything else. It doesn't happen. But still enjoyed it. But yeah, once you're 10 minutes into Thor, I'm like, okay, yeah, I see how they're going to bridge this gap.
And also, it was the first star they made themselves. Iron Man is Robert Downey Jr., a star that was of stature before. Incredible Hulk had Ed Norton, that, you know, was a star from other stuff. Chris Hemsworth, you know, he has that awesome turn at the beginning of Star Trek, but other than that, you know, he's really kind of an unknown, and that's why Thor works, because you do want to spend time with Thor. Thor's a cool guy, and he's funnier than you expect, and it's through him that I think that's really why it's like it starts to sparkle. It's like, oh wait, no, this is also like a star factory. Like, this is where we meet new people that we enjoy.
So it's interesting. I saw Thor and Captain America out of order. Thor came out first, but for whatever reason, I didn't see it. Maybe I didn't trust it. But when I saw Captain America in the theater, that was the one that was like, those crazy bastards. They did it. They somehow made the cheesiest character in the entire MCU into a deeply likable, credible, believable story. And I love the fact that they set it as a period piece. And I love the fact that later on they sprinkled a little fish out of water and a little like, oh, I know it's corny, but what say we, win one for the USA or whatever. It was great.
I loved Captain America. Captain America, like Iron Man, of course, I liked. And Captain America is still one of my favorite Marvel movies, and it was because, yeah, they had that nod and the wink to the cheesy thing when he's up on stage having to do the cheesy Captain America thing. They knew they were hyper conscious of what they were, and that was great. I mean, it was like Thor told me, "Don't worry, we can tell. We don't have to be Batman Begins gritty, hyper realistic." We can go fantasy out there, and then, by the time you got to Captain America, like, it'll feel real, and you'll have gravitas. I'm so glad, because I would have been, if you'd put me in charge of it, I would have been like, nah, I got to make everything realistic. I've got to be really real, which is not what great storytelling is. Great storytelling is I'm going to make it feel real for the characters, which was, I think, part of what I loved about Infinity War.
And also, Thor gives us Loki. Another introduction of Tom Hiddleston to kind of a larger audience, and Captain America, to me, where I really knew that the Marvel Cinematic Universe had the sauce, was they make a Thor movie that I like because I never liked Thor, and then they made Red Skull work. Like, as a comic book reader, it's like Red Skull is something that I never thought could play off the page, like in that. Disembodied, chattering, like a skull.
Well, and plus also in all of the art, he was one of the most cartoonish of all the villains. And he's just like, you could just hear him going like, nah, it's me, the Red Skull. I wish Hitler was alive.
Basically, yeah, absolutely. And they make that movie.
All right, next up to do our reading, Brian Brushwood, go.
Yeah, I'm the Red Skull. My skull is red. Yeah.
And then what I thought at the time was the most impressive thing in movie history, supplanting Lord of the Rings in terms of money spent and faith in a long-term plan, was the Avengers. Joss Whedon writing and directing, and it is an out-of-the-box insane success. They did a superhero team up on a level that had never really been seen, not since the Wu-Tang Clan has so many disparate pieces come to mean more together than they were apart. And I thought, that's it. Nothing will ever be. They did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 movies. It's a 6-movie run, the likes of which we will never see again. At this point, come on, we're getting into Iron Man. So phase 2 begins. Iron Man 3, a Thor sequel, Captain America sequel. I don't know. Guardians of the Galaxy?
Oh, that felt like.
Yeah, remember they announced Guardians of the Galaxy, and we're like, all right. Like, I mean, you can make this work, like.
But how good can it be?
But
Well, and I think one of the smart things that they leaned into was letting different movies have different voices, which again is what they did with the comic books. There were different art styles, there were different writing styles, there were different narrative tropes and stuff. It was a big moment that anything could follow the Avengers 1. Iron Man 3 stuck the landing. Shane Black nailed it. It was great. I loved it.
And that was it's a different kind of story. It's a very Shane Black story. I mean, obviously, somebody if you've never seen Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, go see Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. They have tremendous chemistry. Robert Downey Jr. and Shane Black do. But and by the way, that's the last Iron Man movie, and it came out 5 years ago.
We've had no shortage of Iron Man since then.
Yeah. but that's the last Iron Man movie that came out was 5 years ago. A movie starring or directed and co-written by Shane Black, where Iron Man isn't in the suit for 50% of the movie.
Yeah.
We all, what I love about it is we all have our favorites, and it's different because they do different things, do different stuff. Like, the first two Avengers movies, not a fan. Right?
The first two?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You didn't like the first one?
Yeah. What's that?
This is the thing. We've had many conversations about Avengers when it first came out.
Yeah, I long story short, I'm like, I'm like, yeah, great. We got them all together. It's yay, they're all here. And it's like, great. And we're going to have 3 come to Jesus meetings. And we're going to, like, the choice is like, we're going to put the Hulk on the helicarrier. We're going to do all these really stupid things so we can have crises later on. And it's very Joss Whedon-esque sort of thing. And that was just sort of like versus like, Civil War was my favorite Avengers movie.
Oh, that's so wild. I think Civil War is my least favorite Avengers movie because I really disliked.
It's not an Avengers movie.
Well, yes, but I mean featuring all of the Avengers.
Yeah.
I had a real problem with, like, I'm watching a fight scene between all the characters that I like. I don't know who I'm supposed to cheer for. I don't like any of this. I don't. And also, if you guys had effective communication, this wouldn't be a problem.
Divorce, ladies and gentlemen. Brian is not a child of divorce.
Now, also phase 2, this is where you kind of see the turning of that franchise of the entire MCU. They start to have problems with Joss Whedon. They have very documented problems with Ant-Man, with Edgar Wright dropping out, and so that's why Ant-Man is in phase 2, but comes after the Avengers movie. Oh, I guess Ant-Man wasn't in the Avengers, so or Age of Ultron. So they part ways with Joss Whedon. They have like issues there, but in the middle, find Guardians with James Gunn, and it's just all of a sudden they have maybe their most popular franchise kind of come out of nowhere with their least popular IP, and they have all the lesser famous people actually in the movie and their most famous actors doing voice work.
Yeah. And very rudimentary voice work at that. One line.
Yeah. Oh yeah. For Vin Diesel. Yeah. But then Bradley Cooper is Rocket.
Oh, got it. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Of the story. But I really want to talk about, as we get into eventually you're going to find out whether or not we like Infinity War. I think that what they've done in phase 3, which by the way, we're only halfway through.
Wow.
Is their best work yet.
Yeah. I think, well, it's tough to say because phase 3 has the advantage of having built on everything that came before it. Right. And it's, in the moment, your favorite band, when it releases its 3rd album, you're like, this is the best album ever, but it's because you've learned the voice and the message of that band and you're feeling them in the middle of the groove. It's built upon it.
The only thing that I will say is that phase 3, they have consistently doubled down by raising expectations. They've always said, like, okay, you think it's cool that we got 6 heroes together for one movie and they're all consistent and it doesn't, you're not randomly played by somebody else except for Mark Ruffalo. Then like look, we can do that. Now phase 2, let's tell different stories.
War Machine
characters that you don't know. Let's introduce, I guess, War Machine too, into this mix. Phase 3, you start off with Civil War. That's the first movie in phase 3, which is every character that we had met in a movie that, by the way, spoiler alert for Civil War, ends with the satisfying, crowd-pleasing ending of the villain completing his evil plan and being unable to commit suicide. Like, that's a great way to sell toys. It's like, yeah, like Black Panther with his suicide-stopping hand. Just tremendously ambitious. Then you go to Doctor Strange, Guardians, Spider-Man Homecoming, the first time that they had made the kind of deal that they made with Amy Pascal and Sony, which probably doesn't happen unless the North Korea hacks with that what's it called movie go down, which is a whole nother what if. But then the ones that we just got, Thor Ragnarok, Black Panther, Infinity War, just a tonal reboot for Thor. Black Panther still, even after all this, might be the most profitable movie in Marvel history. Even with what Infinity War is doing, like, this is insane. They're more culturally relevant than they've ever been, and all they do is expand their roster and take chances. It's insane.
They do, but they're doing like Infinity Wars really is on track to be the biggest of all. Unless something they find a tape gets released of all the Avengers, like, making fun of emotionally disturbed children or something like that. It is. For me, the weakest one of the latest phase was Guardians 2. I felt like, I love Guardians, and then watching Peter Quill be very passive and having an entire story unfold before him was sort of like, man, like, I think James Gunn is amazing, but I felt like this felt kind of rushed. Like, it could have gone through another polish. But to be able to say that, where like Spider-Man Homecoming to me is a whole nother level. That
super good.
It's so good. People don't know how good it is.
Yeah. If you think you like it, you don't like it enough.
Exactly. And it's like, it's one of these things, like, there's so many layers and levels to it that it's just to me, it's incredibly rewatchable. And it came out and there was a comparison to Wonder Woman, which Wonder Woman was a good movie. Wonder Woman was a really good movie. And Patty Jenkins made the only watchable movie to me in the DC universe thing. And I thought Wonder Woman was really good. And I think we were so amazed and happy that this Wonder Woman was a great movie that Spider-Man, where you're like, well, of course Marvel's going to do a good job. Well, of course Marvel's going to do a job. I'm like, well, yeah, but they did it in such a different way, high school drama and stuff. And so,
I mean, with just a top-notch Michael Keaton performance too. Like, there are few that I liked better in all of my movie watching than that scene in the car on the way to prom when everything is kind of becoming clear and you realize that both Spider-Man and the Vulture know what's up, and there's in the like idea of the awkward dad driving the daughter to prom thing, which is amazing.
I'm like, my issue with Wonder Woman, I think Patty Jenkins' direction was great, but was the writing was that my thing was like, at the end where a guy named Steve flies a German super weapon to try to stop it from blowing up, the American city, and then he sacrifices his life. And I'm like, it's not like Captain America. I'm like, yeah, no, it's a lot like Captain America. But the casting, the direction is fantastic. And I was a little bit angry, like, I think that's kind of DC, maybe not trying to, but it was a great movie. But then Spider-Man was just a whole nother level. Doctor Strange, I expected to hate this movie. I expected everything I heard about going into it. I'm like, oh, this is not gonna be good. I'm getting ready for my Monday weird things. Let me tell you why Doctor Strange was a disappointment.
I remember I think it was a Night Attack actually that Andrew was on, and we watched the first trailer for Doctor Strange together, and I was getting sarcastic text messages about initial impressions about the trailer from one Andrew Main.
And I stand by because that trailer, they were trying to pull certain triggers, and it just, to me, did everything I kind of didn't want it to sort of do, kind of thing. The movie I got was the movie I was really hoping we were going to see and to get. I love Doctor Strange, guys. I love Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
Doctor Strange, I was wrong. I absolutely love Doctor Strange. It totally, it was like Wonder Woman. We heard somebody who knew somebody on the inside was telling us that Wonder Woman was going to be a disaster, as this. And I think that the person feeding this was talking to somebody who may have been part of the reason why those other ones, like Wonder Woman was great. I loved being wrong. I loved going, this is great, And then with Doctor Strange, I'm like, this movie's awesome. I mean, this movie is a fun movie. I saw it again in the really good, and I don't like 3D. I went back. How much did I like Doctor Strange? I saw it again in 3D.
Yeah, on purpose, not
Yep.
because the 2D was sold out. It actually did. I watched it, previous to the Avengers: Infinity War. I believe Doctor Strange was the last time I saw a movie twice in the theater in its initial release. So
yeah, I saw it. Twice too.
And that was only partially because one of your best friends wrote it.
Yes. Yes. Well, but watching it with Bonnie, I loved it enough that I was like, I want my kids to experience this. And so we went to a 3D showing. And, at the time, I think Josie was 8 years old. And I had to warn them. I'm like, look, people are going to die. It's going to be a more adult movie. And they kept it together and they really enjoyed it. And they came out loving it on the other side.
So the theme is that, we used when Ant-Man came out. Ant-Man was a really fun movie, and that was going to be like the disaster, And now we're at this point now where we're 19 movies in, and you get, Black Panther, which I enjoyed. I didn't enjoy it as much as other people did, but I love the fact that people love it, and it's been a wonderful boon to the universe. It expands the universe. It gives us characters we've never seen before. It makes the universe feel more inclusive to other people. It's expanded. It's all the things that we want. And that. And I'm very, very thrilled that Black Panther does that. And now it's become this juggernaut. And critically, the reviews are through the roof. And we're like, that's the 18th Marvel movie. And it was one of the best reviewed movies of the year.
Yeah. And it, is in what, top 5 all time in terms of grosses? Like,
gross wise, it's insane. It's insane. And so, and that was
the ninth highest grossing film of all time.
9th highest,
Ninth,
So, a few movies into the Marvel universe, when Marvel laid out their calendar, these are all the movies we're going to release. A lot of them were like, yeah, that's going to work, guys. Sure. Good luck on that. By 8 movies, we're going to be sick of superhero stories. Nobody's going to want to watch them, blah, blah, blah. We're 19 movies in, and it feels like they've mastered how to make it. They make a kind of product, and they make it extremely well.
So this is a separate.
Oh, no, sorry. Domestic. Black Panther's number 3.
Domestically.
yeah,
right?
ninth worldwide.
Yeah, 9th worldwide, but
Number
right
3
now-
domestic.
yeah, domestically.
So
There-
this is another discussion that I don't want to totally sidetrack us, but I'm so fascinated to see how different what they're doing with the MCU is versus what Disney is doing with the Star Wars franchise. It's like, whereas the MCU, they very quickly embraced all the massive diversity of storytelling styles, of different, diversity of heroes, diversity of stories. And whereas with Star Wars, they've done the reverse. They've done the reverse.
I was gonna say
The guys blow up the thing.
Yeah. Is there a difference in how they're telling Star Wars stories?
I'm gonna defend Star Wars in the challenge that Kathleen Kennedy faced when she was put in charge of this. Within the Star Wars, there are lots of books and games and things like this, and there are thousands of Star Wars stories there. But there were no, outside of the films, outside of the original trilogy and the second trilogy, there was no, hey, here's our version of Secret Wars. Here's our Infinity Wars. There were no super big successful storylines that we revisited and came back to. So when you were trying to figure out how to tell new Star Wars stories, yeah, there were ideas, there were things, but none of them were audience tested in the way that the Marvel stories were. Marvel had tried to do a lot of big epic stories, and they've had thousands of storylines. Some of them were great. Most of them are meh. But the great ones then became where you start from to figure out, what is the best version of a Tony Stark? And kind of like Marvel Ultimates, kind of dealt with this. Like, what is the best version of the storyline? What is the best idea for an Avengers storyline? And now updating and making it fit. Where is Peter Parker is best? And when he's high school, he's a kid, he's this, whatever. Star Wars is problematic because you don't have that. You have thousands of novels you could choose from, but they're novels. These things are written by people willing to do movie tie-in money kind of thing, and they can be good, but they're not. The best maybe have been, in my opinion, were the ones like the Timothy Zahn ones, but those weren't necessarily going to be the making the best movies. So that's
Yeah.
the challenge at Star Wars fans.
It's just because it's derivative work, right? Like it's trying to work within the larger framework, but it's kind of always, it's not like nobody decided like, all right, new novelizations, let's rewrite Star Wars, and like this time it'll Luke and Leia will know that they're brother and sister, like
Yeah.
in the way that comics have done that a million times, or just like, all right, let's just change these 3 things about the canon, and now all these characters running into each other will feel slightly different in the way that comic book storytelling has.
Yeah, so that's, with the comics, you had this wonderful test bed for storylines. There's people will go like, oh, I kind of dig some Old Republic stuff, whatever, but there weren't any like breakthrough extended universe sort of storylines. There were a couple breakthrough characters, Mara Jade, Thrawn, and Thrawn now has been in Rebels, so now he's canonical Star Wars and stuff. There's things like that, and that's part of the problem where you can sit there, you could sit with a room full of people and talk about Marvel, like, hey, what are the best Avengers stories? Oh, this one. If you say, hey, what are the best Star Wars stories? You're like, oh, we got a bunch of these novels that are all over the place, and it's like, meh. So,
Yeah.
So, what do we think about Infinity War? As our Infinity War review.
hated it. Worst movie ever.
Whatever. I saw it 3 times in the movie theater within 1 week of release.
Brian Haight watched it 3 times.
Sure. It's remarkable. Number one, the logistical achievement of the entire thing is fantastic, but also like they solved so many problems so elegantly by breaking them essentially into 3 team-based stories. It's basically 3 mini Avengers on separate side quests. And by the way, we're getting into total spoilers. If you haven't seen it, then why did you even start this podcast? The most shocking thing to me is there's only one character who has an arc, who has a transformation, who has a beginning, middle, and an end, who we see go through the hero's journey. And it's the villain, Thanos, who gets his way and totally wins at the end without any, don't worry, everyone's okay, just everybody died and bad guy won. End of story. Like, that's a fairly ballsy thing for a company that you don't normally, or I would say 10 years ago, you would not have associated with taking big risks like Disney to do.
Yeah, I guess I would only say the only Thor, Thanos and Thor start in the same place and then kind of go and their own quest for things that then meet at the
Sure,
meet
but
at the end.
I don't know that Thor really learns any lessons or is challenged. I mean, he I don't know, somebody hands him an eye and he makes a new hammer, whereas I feel like Thanos, we see the pathos, we see him having a theory, the courage of his convictions. We see him with his faith tested, and he quote unquote rises to the occasion by throwing, his daughter into a pit in 9/11 land. By the way, did you guys see those twin towers in the background of that place? Not very subtle thing. Oh, you didn't see that? Okay. Yeah. Anyway, Thanos has a real story.
I would say that, yeah, I would say Thanos is the consistent thread, has the biggest arc, or the most complete one of, I mean, he reaches completion. But I would say everybody had a moment, everybody had a challenge and had something like this, and because it's the first half of this, and I think that Doctor Strange did a thing that he would not have done at the beginning. I think Tony Stark did a thing that he would not have done at the start of the story. And I think that, and I mean, to me, like the other Avengers movies, everybody was static. They were just way, way static. They just needed to come to Jesus meeting 3 times. And then they're like, okay, well, we are going to be a team. But here I felt everybody had their own little mini story, and their arcs aren't complete, but they're absolutely faced with these just difficult situations. And you're watching, Scarlet Witch decide that she actually has to try to kill Vision. She has to do this. She does a thing that she would have done at the beginning, but once the reality of what was at stake kind of came into play, I just love the fact that nobody, didn't feel like, to me, even though the sheer number of people there, I didn't feel anybody got shifted. I didn't feel like anybody was getting, just. And I've heard, like, well, there's scenes where a lot of people just standing around. Well, yeah, not everybody can talk at once in your group. Like some people are standing there, but there is stuff happening in every single.
No one got stormed like in X-Men, where it's just like, oh, Storm's here. I wonder if there's going to be a moment at the very end where someone needs to get blown up on top of a building or something, or there needs to be a distraction. Hey, Storm, you want to take care of that? Cool. Anyway, see you next movie.
We wrote a great line for you.
Yeah. I bet you it's going to be a pun about the weather.
Yeah, I no movie is ever going to be perfect, and I don't know if this is my favorite Marvel movie, but I love this movie. I love this movie. I'm excited to see it again.
So,
Avengers movies and Civil War too. I mean, I think like with this phase between Civil War and Infinity War, it's like you're just looking at storytelling that we've just never seen before. I mean, how many times do you see a movie with like 4 characters and you're like, oh my God, it's so amazing that they balanced all 4 characters and all 4 characters got all these great things. This is like 30 people and all of them feel real to the point where, spoiler alert, when half of them die, you're brought in, despite the fact that if that ending were actually real, it would like tank the stock of Disney, considering how many characters are like dependent on their bottom line and like is running their studio financially.
I did derive it brought a wry smile to my face when the effect they used to show everybody dying was to show them turning to ashes, as if you were watching their obligations and contracts be burned in front of you. Like, and I'm out.
Yeah, except it was all the people that still have contracts.
Yeah,
like all the people whose contracts are up are like, whoa, for real? Like that dude just made $700 million. Like, we can't let him go. This is a disaster.
So, question from the chat here: how did the kids feel about Spider-Man dying?
It was really like, I don't normally do this to narrative fiction, but knowing that my especially my oldest is a bit sensitive, I full on told her, I was like, hey, it's the first of 2 movies about the Infinity Wars. What do you think, it ends in a good place or a bad place? And she's like, bad place. We're like, what's the worst bad place you can imagine? Like a character that I love dying. We're like, great, I'm glad we've had this discussion. Are you ready to go watch the movie?
Also, think more ambitiously. We're off to the theater.
Yeah, wait, how about all the characters that you love?
What I loved is I took my friend. She had never really not familiar with the Marvel Universe, and so like literally had to point out who the characters were on the poster.
Oh, how fun. So this is one of the things I wanted to know is it a good movie to somebody who's never seen any of the MCU?
Now, the caveat is she's a film student. She's studying film. She's studying that, but she'd seen a couple of MCU, but didn't know, vaguely knew some of the characters. Mm-hmm. She loved it. She cried at points because she had no idea who Vision and Scarlet Witch were before this movie, but she clearly saw at the beginning these people, they love each other, and she pointed out Elizabeth Olsen's acting and the sadness in the faces, and you watch these actors like, they're doing great performances. Like you're like, and that's my thing. It's like, well, I know it's not real, but do you believe those characters in the moment feel that it's real? Do they really feel that like this is the end? And I'm like, yes, on their faces, they read like people who felt that it was real. And that's what matters. That's what great, you go see a play like it's fake. We're in a room. They're actors.
Yeah.
Like, yes.
Right.
That's not Danish. That's not a Danish prince.
That's not a real human skull. That was never Yorick.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, congratulations. It's not real. You are more than 3 years old.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, but if do you believe, do the actors convey it in the moment? Does the story treat it? And that sometimes in some movies they do such a crappy job of like, oh, they're dead. Oh, that sucks. Like, I don't think the characters believe this person's dead, and I don't believe this movie's carrying on like they're dead. Here it did.
Yeah, one of the things that went into when going into this movie is that Marvel got a reputation as everybody wanted to study the formula I think rightly people kind of pointed out a few things that were consistent in their storytelling. Right down to the plot of Infinity Stone starts off with the heroes, goes to the villain. The heroes have to save the Infinity Stone. There's a glowing beam in the sky. The villains are paper thin. They're there for the heroes.
Skybeam.
This movie kind of subverted all that, right? Like the villain is the strongest part of the movie. It doesn't end in what just wanton destruction through a city or something like that. And one of the biggest things that I thought would wind up wearing a little thin is that, hey, like, how different is Tony Stark from Doctor Strange, from Star-Lord? Like, aren't they all kind of like know-it-all wise asses who like are just there for the perfect quip? Like, if you put them all in a movie together, aren't they all just going to seem like the same person? And like now they're even making Thor more of like a wise ass comedy kind of character, and yet you put them all together and it's like, oh no, it's just like all my best friends, all my funniest best friends got together and they're making fun of each other, and it's hilarious and great. Like, they don't feel like the same character. They feel what's different about them came to the fore, and that was part of the storytelling.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I thought that it was the scene, you know, Star-Lord and Thor.
Oh, that was just gold. That was
like
pure
a pirate
gold.
and a baby. Pirate and an angel had a baby.
Yeah.
And like, you realize how different those movies feel when they go from one to another, and all of a sudden it's like, oh no, wait. When we introduce the Guardians, it feels like a Guardians movie.
Well, and even before the scene changes, you hear like 3 notes from your dad's favorite mixtape, and then you know where you're about to be, and sure enough,
or
there they
even
are.
like the fact that it goes like the credit of where we are is space.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, like we are. Boom! It's Rubber Band Man. We're in space. They're singing along. Some of them, teenage Groot's being an asshole. Like, I'm here. I'm in this movie, and we're having a good time, despite the fact, or even the brief moments. The fact that like all we really get of that Spider-Man Homecoming universe is him telling his best friend like create a diversion, and he's just like,
yeah,
we're
Ned,
all
create a
gonna die.
diversion.
We're all gonna die.
Yeah, just no hesitation. Boom. You know.
Like you're just in it, and you just get like this little taste, this little hit of Spider-Man Homecoming. And you're like, yay, Spider-Man Homecoming! I like that movie.
Reggie 33_bring it says there's a surprising amount of swearing in the movie. That's actually a good point. I suspect that we're seeing. I don't know. Now that we're all grown men, it's wild to be around long enough to see acceptable lines and language change. You know, it's the thoughts that are the off-limits darkness, not the words themselves, the syllables that you speak. And just like in the 1960s, you couldn't say damn or hell on television, and then by the 1980s, those seemed safe. They had lost their teeth. I think for the S word and the F word, I think there's a new F word in town, and it's
That's the one you can't
exactly say. Right. Not that there was an F word in this movie, but my point is that language evolves, and it's a constantly shifting environment.
Yeah, and I think that they're trying to make it feel. Maybe you want to say what these characters say, and again, these are different tones of movies. Like what Star-Lord will say is not what Doctor Strange would say, and Star-Lord curses. So
yeah, it was delightful. It was great, and I agree with Taz_the man. Thanos' children were awesome. I think that while we didn't get to learn all of their backstories, didn't care. I know that there's an awesome floating Voldemort, and I know that there's scaly Hulk, and whatever. I loved all of that.
It was fine. Look, they credibly fought the Avengers. I knew they were going to lose. That's fine. It's good. The powers were cool. I like their powers. They looked cool. They felt cool. They felt like credible threats. And yeah, I mean, and now it's like, look, how do you sell the biggest movie of all time twice? how you end that movie.
Well, I mean, number one is you make sure to have a all-time best-selling lead-in that kills half the MCUs so that we can see what happens next.
Yeah, and it was. I mean, look, that's a 2.5-hour movie, and
It
at
did
the point
not
we
feel.
saw it. We saw it at the Draft House, and so when you go to the Draft House, as Brian well knows, you have that moment where the checks come, and so like, all right, well, the check's here. We're at the end of the movie, and it was like they were in Wakanda, like I think it was like right as like they were doing the Vision scene, and I'm like, oh my god, like there's a lot here, like still to go. Like what the like this can't be 15 minutes from the end of the movie. There's so much that needs to happen.
Yeah.
And the fact that people are reacting to it, I think, like that's probably the greatest achievement. To put a bow on this movie, the greatest achievement is, for a million reasons, there's a sequel coming out next year. You know, of course, Black Panther and Spider-Man aren't dead. They have movies coming out in the next year and a half that they're shooting now. You know, Chris Pratt is on his Instagram talking about like how great it's going to be when they all get back on set in 6 months. It's like, you know it, but you don't.
Right.
And you don't know it enough to want to go see how this wraps up. Like that they had the courage of their convictions to say, of course, no, we're going to kill characters. We're going to kill and beyond who dies at the end. Like it starts with Loki dying. It starts with Heimdall dying.
that moment when
middle-
Thanos murders Loki and doesn't quite look directly into the camera and say, "And no resurrections. This is a permanent death." Like that was amazing.
Yeah. Just remarkable. And it'll be curious to see, because I do think that for everything about that franchise, they're not just gonna, like, there will be a cost. Now, who that ultimate cost is, I mean, I think obviously these characters are coming back, but who goes in their stead or what it takes for them to get back there, we'll see.
They got me on the hook. I'm super stoked.
What if they recast everybody? All the characters come back alive,
my
and that's
God.
how they get rid of Robert Downey Jr. is they recast everybody.
The rage that would course through my veins.
Do you want some predictions?
Yeah.
Sure.
So, you know, they shot a large part of they shot Infinity War too. Like they
Yeah.
shot that, right? And there was this cast photo that came out of the entire Marvel cast.
Yep. I did not see that.
So it's
Like a huge
all
shot,
the major
like a hanger.
What's that?
It's like a huge shot, and
Yeah.
there we go.
Yeah. And so it's everybody. And I remember looking at this going, wow, that's really cool. And then I'm like, it's kind of a real expensive photo shoot to fly everybody in there and to get some of the top actors in the world to go say, hey, show up for this photo shoot. And then it's like, oh, this is because they were shooting something.
That
this is
involved
because-
literally all of the actors.
Yeah. So, and as I mean, it's like to get a lot of those people there, they're making something. And so, meaning that for part 2, there's probably going to be a scene where everybody's there. And, what's the thing we keep hearing about? Tony Stark, Pepper Potts marriage.
Ah.
So imagine, and the ending of part 2 is you get your wedding, and think of Armageddon, the wedding at the end there, where it's this happy wedding, and then they pan across the photos of those who are dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably how Infinity
Let's
War
say,
part
so
2.
some kind of ghost version of all the dead characters or whatever.
Well,
or-
I think we're gonna have real people, the people there are gonna be there, but I think we're also gonna see you're gonna see Captain America, memorialized as a photo, and you're gonna start crying because you're gonna see yeah, no, he's dead.
Yeah.
He's dead. These guys are dead to dead. That'll be no, this is real death, and I think you're just gonna get the tears,
So Chris Evans has said he's out after this next movie. Now, it's not the first time that a Marvel actor has said that he's not returning to a franchise and then return to the franchise. Robert Downey Jr. has done it for a very, very long time. and Chris Hemsworth is apparently done with his contract after Infinity War. If one of those three stays, who would you want to stay? A lot.
It's a bit. I am in a bit of an unfair position because coming off of Thor Ragnarok and seeing Chris Hemsworth's performance in Infinity War, like I'm just really into. Ever since they cut that dude's hair, he's my favorite guy lately.
He is. In everybody I talk to, we agree. Like he's become he's the person that's grown the most. He's just grown the most.
Yeah.
And to Hemsworth credit, going off and going and do comedy, playing the male bimbo, doing that sort of thing. You know the rumors about the next Star Trek movie, right?
No, is he going to reprise his?
On him.
There are rumors that it might be him, like go back to Kirk's father and do a focus on him, because Hemsworth in the right role is effing great. You know, he did a bunch of kind of crappy Black Hat movies and stuff that like were there, but once you key into him, I was saying before, like I was sort of I love RDJ and I love Iron Man, but I was kind of like, well, I feel we've seen that story, but now as surrogate father to Peter Parker, I'm like, I want more. I want Peter doing his thing, and then Tony Stark put into that role, you know.
Yeah, that was one of the smartest twists that I've seen them do with that character specifically, to transition from wealthy billionaire playboy to father figure.
And the fact that they pay off that homecoming arc. I mean, like there's so many stories that are set up that are like subplots that are left unresolved in these movies, just pay off in this, specifically that ending where it's like it is homecoming. It's Robert Downey Jr. freaking out when you realize that he's actually in the armor after the ferry scene where he's like legit pissed off at Peter for getting himself in harm's way. That then is the like cry moment when Peter's like I don't want to go, and he's like disintegrating into dust. Yeah, I'll tell you what, I literally I don't want anybody to go. None of them need new movies. Just they can all. I mean, Thor needs more movies because I really like Ragnarok, and like they've just like kind of redefined that character, and really, we'll see. I mean, obviously, Captain Marvel is going to play into this cosmic universe, but like right now, if the cosmic universe is Thor movies and Guardians movies, like awesome,
fine by me.
Renew my subscription.
And I love the fact they do, and Feige has dropped his talking about how Marvel stories can take place kind of anywhere, anytime kind of thing now, because like Captain Marvel is going to be set in the 90s, Ant-Man and Wasp is going to take place before Infinity War, and
I was wondering how they were going to deal with that.
Yeah, take place before, and so you have the opportunity now that like go anywhere, anytime, any place you want, kind of thing. So the biggest challenge is if you don't like, and I thought like kill Captain America, because if you want to do a Captain America story, like, oh yeah, in 2012 he went on this mission that played into something or other, that because you can have this. He was doing missions and stuff. If you wanted to do a flashback thing or put him into a story or whatever, you could do that.
Oh, got it. So you get away with killing him in the second movie, or the second Infinity Wars movie, but you don't actually have to pay the price since you can throw him in other stuff.
You don't have to you don't have to like, oh, he's alive. Like, no, he died, but this was a thing that happened before.
Right.
So.
Right.
But cool.
Hey, picks. We're all picking Infinity War, right?
Go see it. It's good. It's a good movie. Man, a lot of movies coming out, man. I got tickets to Deadpool, tickets to Solo, and
you get your Solo tickets, Brian?
No. I have it's really delightful to have a brand new movie theater that is just establishing itself open up across the street from you, because pretty much day of anything I can go, there's always a seat.
Nice.
And if there's not, you can just go back home.
Yeah. You wait 30 minutes and there's another showing. They did all day. They're doing Avengers Infinity War every hour and a half hour. There's some theater. There's 14 theaters in there, and it's a smaller community, so it's great.
bought
No,
my
I
Solo
wound up
ticket.
buying tickets, despite the fact that I was texting Brian late at night,
Can I read?
thinking that Solo had been on sale for a day, and I'm like, oh my god, this is gonna tank. And then ultimately I realized
So
it had
you-
literally just gone on sale like 20 minutes.
First is a picture of all the booked seats at the Draft House. Only one showing for Solo, and still plenty of opening night tickets available at the Alamo. Follow-up text. In comparison, all the Marvel S-word sells out of the 7 almost instantly. We barely got 2 for Deadpool. Solo is gonna tank. Third follow-up. NM, that S-word just went on sale. In retrospect, I should have got good seats instead of texting you.
Now we're sitting in the front row because Ashley got tickets the next day. I should have. Yeah, I screwed up.
Solo pre-sale has doubled Black Panther.
Wow. Yeah,
wow.
I'm telling you, I think Solo will surprise and do very, very well. I think we're seeing the reverse of the Last Jedi effect.
I got my favorite seats, the 7 p.m. Thursday night showing. So I'm thrilled. I mean, I bought as soon as they went on. I'm like, oh, they're on sale. Click, go buy. Bought it. Instead of texting Brian.
Hey, listen, man. This is what happens when you're out of town.
Yeah, I'm a Star Wars fan, and I liked Last Jedi. So it's like Justin and I had this conversation. We're like, no, everything you're saying about Last Jedi, you should be saying about Rogue One. But
That's another hour-long discussion about why you're wrong for hating Last Jedi, viewer.
Yeah,
You are, though.
Yeah, I will. I'll take a chance again. I had fatigue. I almost didn't buy tickets to see Last Jedi though, because I watched the trailers and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, this feels like Force Awakens versus Empire and Star Wars felt like such different damn movies, So,
All right.
silence.
Love you guys.
Yeah.
Bye. This is then after.
There you go. Nailed it.
Nice.
I want it to be good.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll be good, but I know it's what people say they wanted, and so we'll find out how they feel about it.
Did you guys see the Arrested Development thing?
No.
With Star Wars? Ron Howard did like an official Arrested Development narration, so it's like an Arrested Development episode, but with the original trilogy.
Yeah.
Including the line of you're doing the Kessel Run, and he's like, "Hey, that'd make a great plot for a movie." By the way, Solo in theaters May 24th.
Cool.
Yeah, that was great. Plus, season 5, Arrested Development. A lot of Arrested Development stuff in the news today.
Her? All right. I will see you guys later. Bye.
All right, bye.
Yeah, we gotta go. Good shows today, everybody. We got
Yeah.
Core Killers.
You guys are awesome. Bye.
Bye.